Wah! I did it again. Oh baby, baby. Hello. Hello. Happy Friday. Hello. Ah! Hello. How you guys doing? It's been a week. It's been I last talked to you guys on Monday and now it's Friday. It's been less than a week. It's been less than a week, but it's been like a work week. How you guys doing? We're talking about the 2000s today. And some yaps on the side. I went on some adventures this week. It was pretty fun. So yeah, how are you guys doing? And I'm also, I just put on a playlist for the 2000s. It's just called The Music That Defined the 2000s, and I watched the video that goes along with it, so I'm all ready. I'm ready for the 2000s. I'm ready to talk about economic recession. Actually, no, I'm not. I don't know anything about that. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Yo, Matthew, thank you for the 30 stream streak. How see-through is your plastic? It's pretty see-through. You could see the guts inside and everything. But yeah, let me see who we got here, and then we'll get to class. Let's see who we got. We got Saribot, our rock. And then Matthew, you got your sticker. You are first. Peck School second. Gojikins and Ghosty, you guys got your stickers too. And Peck School. See, and you guys are exploding, as is tradition. Fugubi, hello. Hello, you guys are getting your stickers. Teacher, the economic recession ate my future. Can you give it detention? Sure, sure. We'll send it right to Hieronymus Bosch on the double. We'll do that. We'll do that. Well, awesome. Let's go ahead and get to class. Oh, wait. My tracking. There we go. You guys can hear the music, right? So slowly. But look, I'm 3Dinka today. We're 3D. I feel like it's only, like, I feel like it makes sense. I feel like it makes sense, right? With the graphics of the time. Beeplebees, hello! Hello, we just started. Oh, I'm so shocked all the time. Wait, let me see if I can fix my tracking real quick. There we go, there you go. 3Dinka! It's time to guess the time. Actually, not quite. Not quite. Alright, tracking on now. Dang, when I was testing it, my eyes weren't that wide. Do you think when I'm like not streaming, my eyes are just naturally smaller, and then now that I am streaming, I'm just always shocked all the time? But hello everyone, hello, it's me, Babinka Bear, your local Sunbear art history teacher and educational streamer. And today, we're actually gonna leave Time Guesser for the end, because we're gonna be talking about the 2000s. It's like 6 p.m. probably. Sleep mode Binka, guard mode Binka. Exactly, exactly. But it's good to see you guys. Yeah, before we get right into like talking about the 2000s and such. First of all, I'm gonna lower the music just a smidge. There we go. There we go. And then let me also play around with some settings real quick. Reset motion. Just playing with my face a little bit. Okay, cool. Cool. But yeah. It's still tracking me as like very shocked all the time. I'll need to figure out how to fix that. But one way we can rectify that is by just turning off the tracking, because my mouth still moves when I talk. And I think that's pretty cool. You love the new emote? Yeah, with pancakes. Music that defined the 2000s. Exactly. This is what happens when you shave off your eyebrows. They should have grown back by now. They should have grown back by now. Perpetually terrified out in the wild. The 2000s are just a very shocking time period. They kind of are. They kind of are. Like, especially if you look at what's on the screen right now. Very shocking. I know, right? W. W. But yeah, hello. How you guys doing? So, let's see. How was my week? It was pretty good. I think the big highlight, I posted about it on Discord, but I went to a gallery yesterday and I had dinner with Binka Bro. The gallery was pretty cool. The gallery was pretty cool because it was attached to an elementary school. Foreclosure! I'm so shocked. W jump scare. Throw shoe. We're gonna talk about W. He's such an interesting, like, person. And just in terms of, like, I'm remembering so much about the 2000s and, like, the memes of the 2000s. Yeah. We'll start with that. Yeah, colorful monies. It's the euro. It's the euro. But yeah, big highlight of the week was that I went to this gallery. It was like an opening for a gallery. And it's attached to an elementary school that is in partnership with the local museum. And basically it's an exhibit of just art made by kids. And it was very cute. And because it was like opening day, and because like a lot of the artists are from the school that it's attached to, there were just a lot of kids that were like dragging along their parents, their adults, and being like, mommy, look, I made this art, I'm famous. And it was just like so cute. I was just so like, yes, you are famous, you made art and it's being like displayed on a wall. That's fantastic. And like all of their artwork was also professionally like mounted and stuff. Like it's like a sketch by a 4th grader, but it's like professionally framed and mounted on like a gallery wall, so it looks like legit as heck. If you guys want to see the pictures, you can check it out in the Discord. I won't be posting them here because like there are some details in there that I would much rather not I guess like be out in public, if that makes sense. The eyes are so parched. I will blink. Here we go. Look. There we go. See? Blinking. Let's see. You can also turn on auto blink if you want. Oh, I could. Is it really my eyebrows that's causing that? Is it really my eyebrows? Or should I keep on looking up like this? No, down like this. Maybe down. Maybe down. Don't throw shoes. She can auto dodge those. I can. Look, watch. Ah. Waha! Let's see. Nice, completely innocuous, smoky building where nothing bad is happening. Exactly. We'll talk about it. Folk, hello. Hello. Since you've been gone, I can't breathe for the first time. So yeah, this playlist is from a playlist called Music That Defined the 2000s. And is it not going in chronological order? Hold on. This isn't going in chronological order. Oh, I think I was playing another. I see. I was playing another playlist. That's what happened. VSeeFace always thinks I'm sad if I'm not smiling. Oh no. Well, now it thinks I'm shocked all the time, which I think is apt. I think it's apt. On no tits. Wait. Yeah, wait, where are my redeems? Uh-oh. Okay, give me a second. I did also just update SAMMI, so hopefully that's not affecting that. But give me a minute. We're gonna go back to the intro and then we're gonna come back to the classroom. We'll see if that fixes anything. Alright, and then we bring it back. We bring it back to the classroom. Where are my redeems? Hello? Oh no. Okay, give me a second. I didn't realize that all the redeems are not working. Okay, run. see. So no tits smash his phone. Wow. Alright, let me check it again. Let me check it again. That is not intentional. Alright, now we go back to the classroom. That usually populates my rewards, my redeems. Where are they? Maybe I shouldn't have updated SAMMI right before the stream, methinks. The user Babinka Bear does not have any channel points. I have infinite channel points. I'm the streamer. What does it mean by that? SAMMI's giving me like a little warning that's like, you actually don't have any channel points. But I'm the streamer. Okay, wait, now we're connected. Now we're connected. Okay, now things are connecting. Run. Okay, we're gonna try this one more time. We're gonna go back to the intro. And then we'll get back to class. And hopefully that'll fix it. Okay, okay. Nothing? No, what's happening? Not all of my redeems. Do I need to manually turn all of them off? I could do that. I could just do that. Alright, give me a second. Because then you can enjoy the music. Or else forget about it. I could also just manually turn all of them on. I just hate that I have to do it manually. Okay, there we go. No! You guys are taking full advantage of it right away. Okay, I think that should be everything. Wait. Babinka repel. There you go. Alright, we have most of our redeems back. Mega Bronson, hello. Hello, thank you for the raid. You came in right as I was fixing some problems with the redeems. So the redeem should be working now. Oh, it works! Yay, the passing notes. Wait, why are you guys passing notes in class? Why are you guys passing notes in class? How dare you? How dare you? And then Folk, thank you for the 55 stream streak. I appreciate you. Thank you. That's awesome. The king, start running your way. As always, the phone isn't working, but that's not. That's not too strange, right? Let me catch up on chat real quick now that the redeems are back and my legs are there. Rewards Doko. SAMMI has forsaken us. Just imagine I'm throwing things at you. I don't have to imagine. You're throwing things at me. Wait, I still have all reliable. She has channel points poor, the market crash, and the reserve depleted. Speaking of a recession, right?
Slices of
American cheese. Yeah, give it to me. Heck yeah, all on the forehead. Ow. Yum 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 yum. All on the forehead. Apply directly to the forehead, actually. Let's see. Infinite and Zero are so close together, it's easy to get them confused. It's true, right? Let's see. Alright, and now you guys are playing with the redeems. And then, yes, Mega Bronson, thank you for the raid. How was, Pilgrims? I saw that you were also playing a whole bunch of other, was it point and click games? Or was it just Pilgrims? Because I was able to pop in for like a teensy bit before I started stream. But how was it? How was it? Let me know. And if you have to raid and run, no worries at all. We're going to be talking about the 2000s today. Fun, fun, fun. I also have some photos from my own life. I did censor them, so no doxing. Unfortunately, hey, why did you shrink me? I just love sulfuric acid. How dare you? Ding, 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 ding. When you're big, it's like 64 Cheez-Its. Hey, why are you laughing at me? Why are you laughing at me? I'm not a jerk. Why would you say such a thing? Why would you say such a thing? That's just so mean. But yeah, I was gonna say, it turns out I don't have any pictures of Mega Bronson or Beans that I was able to use for this one. I would have told you guys ahead of time if I did. And gotten your permission, but I pretty much just used some pictures from high school that I have censored, that hopefully, no doxing, you know, hopefully. Chuchel and Pilgrims both are Amanita Design games. Chuchel was kind of boring, but Pilgrims was more interesting. Ooh, okay. Tell me more, if you want. Schnackery's here. Schnackery, what's up? He's yelling. He's yelling. Just Photoshop a hyper-realistic picture of a black bean. So the context in which I got some pictures from my own life are in the fashion part. So yeah, let's quickly go through it. Let me go ahead and go to Steam Manager just so that I can Stream Manager so that I can see the chat as I do this. He's Screm, excited about Phonopolis. Ooh, Phonopolis sounds like a cool title for a game. But yeah, we haven't started yet, but here's kind of like an overview of like what we will be going over. So current events. Schnackery, you weren't even born yet. Schnackery, what's up? Okay, so yeah, we're gonna talk about some current events. That's this section, and you'll notice that like the section is very small compared to like past year's current events, right? They're usually like pretty long, but it's because there was so much to talk about that I decided to just put it into a whole new category, and it was technology. So there's going to be a category for technology and pop culture. Pop culture, we're probably going to spend a little bit of a while on there just because like I think I mentioned this before, but it's harder to do these decade studies once you have actually lived through the decade itself, because when it came to like let's like rewind back to like the 2020s, where it's like, well, obviously I didn't grow up during this decade, so whenever it came to like, oh, I don't even have a pop culture like area here. I think I started doing that maybe in like the 60s or 70s. Yeah, over here, pop culture, like music, movies, TV shows. Like, I just wrote down what I remember, like, you know, stuff that I remember from like Nick at Night, or stuff that I've heard of because of like my parents or grandparents' generation and stuff like that. So, like, these are a lot smaller because I'm going off of like what has survived the past couple decades and is still in kind of the cultural milieu. But once we got to the 90s, it's like, oh, I remember these, you know, like I remember this music, I remember like these TV shows. So like it's hard to just summarize it very succinctly. And then, you know, I was only really sentient for half of the 90s, but I was sentient for all of the 2000s. So once we got to music, it's like, I gotta include Britney, I gotta include Eminem, I gotta include 50 Cent, I gotta include Usher, I gotta include My Chemical Romance and System of a Down and Linkin Park and Soulja Boy, tell him. You know, like, and even now there's stuff here that I'm like, I should have included like, you know, Alicia Keys. I should have included a picture of like All American Rejects because my brother loves that band. I should have included like Paramore, you know. So there's a lot that I wanted to go over, but just because like I unfortunately can't focus on just the music for this stream, once again I'm gonna have to paint things with a very broad brush. Ain't nothing but a heartache. Let me see what you guys are saying. A black bean wearing Tim's. Let's see, Chuchel is a skip. Pilgrims was fun and has a bunch of different routes, but it's only like 30 minutes to get through. You get cards with characters and items, and you interact with the story using the characters and cards. It's kind of hard to explain. I've been waiting for that a few years now. It released 2 days ago. Dude, okay, cool. That sounds cool. I might want to try out Pilgrims. Like I said, I popped into your stream for like a second while I was like setting up for stream, and the aesthetic looked really cool. So I'm down to check it out. Yo, hello Nap, hello. I'm ready to feel old, heck yeah. Well, I was already feeling old when we were talking about the 90s. Now we're talking about the 2000s. It's hard because we were actually sentient in the 2000s. Exactly. We become dust together. Because for the 90s, it's like, oh, I actually didn't really watch Seinfeld until I was in my like late 20s, early 30s. Never watched Frasier. Definitely watched Fresh Prince. Never watched Friends, and I kind of don't really have any intention to. Want to watch Star Trek Next Generation, but haven't gotten around to it. Vaguely watched Xena. I really wanted to get into X-Files, but when I was a kid and I couldn't sleep, there was this one night where like I just remember I couldn't sleep, and like X-Files happened to be playing on the TV, and it was a really traumatic episode. And it kind of scared me out of like watching it, even though I know it's probably like a really good show. But it was just like a really freaky one, and I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. And then Simpsons is half of my identity, so, you know, there's that. But for all of the 2000s, all of this stuff is like, man, I wish I could just dedicate this whole stream to talking about Final Fantasy 9 and Majora's Mask and 10 and Napoleon Dynamite and like the 20 times I've seen it during a day where my high school teacher didn't want to teach, you know? Like, I wish I could talk. I'm not gonna talk about Avatar, but I would want to talk about. Where is it? I would want to. Wait, where is it? I would want to talk about Avatar though. You know, like all these things. Also, like Linkin Park, all the boy bands. Anyway, we're not even there yet. We're not even at that section yet. Afterwards, we'll go ahead and start with cars and fashion, because that's gonna help us the most with time guesser stuff. I just finished researching these two things this morning, and then we'll end off with popular aesthetics, art styles such as like pop surrealism, which is really interesting, and then art movements of the time. So lots of really cool art movements came out of this time. Like, for example, this was not made in the 2000s. This was made, I think, after Obama's presidency. But this artist, Kehinde Wiley, is like one of my favorites. So, let's see. Despite what, despite that I was sentient then, my reality doesn't mix with yours on most of them. Yeah, it's definitely gonna differ, right? X-Files scared the crap out of me. Yeah, I watched an episode that was just like, I shouldn't have been watching it like 2 in the morning as like a teenager, you know? I would love to do a whole presentation on 2000s cartoons. Oh yeah, definitely. Like, if we're talking about like, I didn't include that much. A lot of it is more so like adult animation. Actually, Avatar is like, it counts as like not necessarily adult, but can still be enjoyed by adults, you know? And I think I've told the story of like why I wasn't able to watch SpongeBob, but Saku, hello, you gotcha sticker. We're talking about the 2000s today for our decade study. Yeah, get your stickers, everyone. Get your stickers. I think a cool like thing to talk about with cartoons would probably be like the Gendy Tarkovsky, like both era and like style, because I didn't realize until I was really doing these decade studies that his art is definitely very like 60s 70s style. And I think that's just really cool to see like his influences. But yeah, so there's that. But I guess with this we could just get into it. I saw X-Files when I opened the stream. I was talking about how I really want to get into it, but like I watched a really like traumatic episode when I was really young, and it was like the middle of the night and I couldn't like sleep. And it kind of scared me out of watching the rest of it, even though like I caught a gifted while I was lurking. Oh, nice. But yeah, so as much as I would want to, I would still want to. I'd be down to check it out, but because of that, it was kind of like scarring, you know? But yeah, you know what? Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So let's talk about the 2000s. Once again, what helps me personally as a Bear American to like ground myself to the time period is also knowing who were the presidents of the time. And I bolded W because even though Bill Clinton and Barack Obama also were president during this time, it was mostly like throughout like the decade itself was mostly like George W. Bush's like presidency. So like Bill Clinton feels more like a 90s president while Obama feels more like a 2010s president, if that makes sense. So yeah, this was the presidency of W. Bush here in Bear America. I don't know if I'll go through some of the other world leaders at this time. I knew like a teensy bit about world leadership because of Hitalia back then, but that was definitely more so the 2010s. But yeah, so before we get into anything current events, I think it is worth talking about the Y2K bug. So this was, for those that don't know what this was like a big thing where computers basically, if you look at if you're on like a Windows, I don't know if it's the same if you're on like a Mac, but if you look on like the lower right hand corner, you'll probably see the date, and it says 5/22/2026, or the month and the day might be flipped depending on like what country you're from. But yeah, like it says fully like 2026, but a lot of computers back then were kind of coded to just show the very last 2 digits. So for example, like here, turn off your computer before midnight 12/31/99, you know? They don't have to put 1999 because, you know, it's redundant. However, now that we were transitioning into a new millennium, it would switch over to 00 to imply, you know, the year 2000. However, basically there was this fear that there was this whole glitch. Shiopi, hello. There was this fear that like a glitch would affect computer systems worldwide, because once the computer systems transition into the year 00, there was this assumption that it would like basically like the computers would think that it's the year 1900. you know? And one big thing with this Y2K bug is that ultimately didn't happen, right? But unfortunately, a lot of people assume that it was just an overblown worry, that like we were just like kind of like overthinking. But actually, it was a lot of programmers and a lot of people working behind the scenes and working tirelessly to fix the code, essentially. I don't know the specifics of how it happened, but like it was actually a lot of people working hard to make sure that that did not happen. So it's not that it was a threat that was overblown, it's that people actually worked hard enough and fast enough that they prevented this catastrophe, essentially. Let's see. I remember being a kid running around the comic book owner's house on New Year's into 2000 with other children, and we were all screaming about how the world was about to end. I mean, yeah, right? Because that's like the you know, the meme, quote unquote, the meme, quote unquote, of the time of like, oh, the world's gonna end. We don't have to go to school. EB. So yeah, like part of like I kind of like this little sticker from Best Buy that says like, remember, turn your computer off before midnight, because I don't know if that would have like likely helped the transition into like the 2000s, so to speak. And then this is an interesting sign. I think it's in French, but I forget like if it's specifically from France or Belgium. But as you can see, there was a little bit of a glitch where like when it transitioned into the year 2000, the computer accidentally read it as 1900. So yeah, like you can imagine that that would have like caused a lot of confusion, but also like kind of internal like confusion with the computers of the time. So yeah, that was the Y2K bug. Ultimately, nothing happened, but it's not because no one did anything. It's because a lot of people worked tirelessly to make sure nothing happened, if that makes sense. Okie dokie. So, moving on, what I got here, the decade was marked with continuing globalization, particularly with the growth and increased accessibility to the internet. So yeah, when we were talking about the internet in back in the 90s, it wasn't necessarily in its infancy. By this time, the internet was like booming, it was a thing. It's just that now people had more access to it by the 2000s, especially with, and I feel like my fellow millennials and like older Gen Z will remember, like those AOL discs that were like, oh yeah, like free trial for AOL, here's 30 of them. But also, and I'll get into this more with like the technology portion, but there were also more options into when it came to actually logging into the internet. So eventually cultures were exploring the idea of logging onto the internet without using your phone line, essentially. So one of the big things with like using the internet in like the early 90s and like the 2000s was like, oh, like you can't use the internet because it's gonna like block the phone, essentially. Like people can't call in, and you can't call out. Because if you pick up the phone while someone is using the internet, you would just hear like that one sound that's like They made great drain coasters, right? Yeah, especially because like eventually, like everyone just got like a lot of free like AOL trials in the mail. Like I specifically remember like being a teenager in like 2009 and being like, I need a way to like get rid of these. Like these are so bad. But yeah. So, but yeah, increasing globalization. And it's interesting to think about this because like there is a little bit of recency bias and how like everything is by default connected via the internet nowadays, that like, oh yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you have friends from other countries, like even across like different oceans and stuff. Back then, I don't think that would have been a thing, up until like the 90s and 2000s, unless you worked in like a business that like specifically dealt with like other countries, or like if you traveled around for different reasons. But like my community back then was like my middle and high school classmates, you know, like my parents' friends. So like I wasn't really like making a lot of friends in other countries unless it was like my relatives in the Philippines, you know. But this was kind of like the start of that globalization, this idea of like, oh, if you log onto the internet, you could be in a chat room with someone from the UK, or someone from the Philippines, someone from South Africa, someone from Yemen, or Yemen, you know. Don't actually know how AOL worked. I assumed it was free for my family or fully use only those and use only those free trial discs. I don't know either, if I'm being honest. I just remember like our family doing the transition to what was it called? DSL? DLS? Like, I just remember the transition into like, oh, we don't have to worry about the phone anymore when we use the internet. So yeah, like we'll get into that more when we talk about technology. But beginning of globalization, you also saw the beginning of outsourcing. So you know how like if you ever call like support for anything nowadays, you might get redirected to someone calling from another country. Essentially, like they might not make it obvious that they're from another country, but like basically your call is being outsourced to someone in India or the Philippines or trying to remember like the other countries where this is more prominent, but this was kind of the start of that as well, because a lot of companies were like relying on them for cheap labor. I enjoy getting the Filipinos, yeah, the ones who can like mysteriously tell that I'm Filipino even though like I don't think I have any hint of a Filipino accent, but I don't know if they're just getting it off of my last name, you know, like, oh, your last name's Bear. Like, you must be Filipino. No, you know what? I'm pretty sure it's the first name that gets them. Oh, your first name's Babinka. Are you Filipino? You know, they gave me the white name. Yeah, right? Where it's like, I don't know. It's like, how do they know that I'm Filipino? Anyway. This being the true start of the internet age also helps inflate the pop culture section, since it started being easier to be found by people and you didn't only see the major hits from the record labels. Exactly. And I think that also contributes to the like this sentiment that I had too when I was like putting all this together, is like this is a lot of different genres. And like back then, nothing was stopping me and like I feel like my generation from like liking different genres of music. I'm not saying that everyone from like the 60s and 70s were only sticking to one genre, but you know, like there are people who like, you know, goth is their whole identity, or like, you know, I don't know, be like preppy is their whole identity or anything like that. I'm sure there are lots of people like that were into different genres as well, but I just remember like growing up, a lot of people would be like, yeah, I like any genre really. The thing that you would always see, especially like on MySpace or like Facebook bios, was like, I like every genre except country. And you see, that was before Lil Nas X. I just remember a lot of people would write that, like, I like every genre except country. Yeah, LimeWire, our internet was so fun back then. Yeah, I agree. It was because it was like the Wild West of the internet, basically. So, like with music, even though like I would self-identify myself as like a wannabe emo scene kid, wannabe, I want to underline that wannabe part. Like, I would also still listen to hip hop and R&B and rap, you know, like I was also like into the Soulja Boy dance back then. And Britney and Kanye before he went crazy. And like, I actually didn't listen to System of a Down when I was that age, though. It wasn't until I was dating Beans that I listened to more of System, and I was like, dang, I was missing out that whole time. Honestly, that's still true for me. Yeah, well, I now like country because of Lil Nas X, but like, actually, I do feel like there's a lot of country bangers, even from like the like 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I just can't name them off the top of my head, but I feel like, you know, when you like fall asleep and then you wake up and it's like, you know, 11 p.m. and there's an infomercial and they're playing like the best hits, and there are some country songs, it's like, yeah, I feel like I feel like there's some country songs that I like. Oh man, I wish I could have gotten into a music subculture. Yeah, well, like I said, I want to call myself like a wannabe emo kid, but my mom didn't let me. Like, my mom didn't let me dress up like emo or scene. So the best thing I could do was just listen to MCR on repeat. I'm not okay. Like, it's never too late. That's true. That's true. I mean, it's still true that music genres that aren't country put out good stuff regularly, so old country maybe, new country earned its bad reputation for the most part. Ah, okay. It's not a phase, Mom! Did you have access to Big Shiny Tunes or Now growing up? No, I had access to burned CDs from my friends. And eventually LimeWire, but like I just kept on infecting my dad's computer with viruses, so eventually he was like, you have to stop. Like, you need to stop, there's too many viruses on this computer. Why are you trying to download this okay, I was gonna joke and say Naruto AMVs, but I didn't really watch a lot of Naruto AMVs back then. What did I watch? I want to say Yu-Gi-Oh. Why are you downloading all of these like Yu-Gi-Oh AMVs? Let's see. Country peaked with The Devil Went Down to Georgia and never reached those heights again. Come on, guys. Little Nas X. Come on. Okay, but that's... Okay, to be fair, that's later. That's much later. My parents were part of a fundamentalist cult, so when I started wearing black and went to academic... oh, man. Acadeka! Let's go. I was never part of Acadeka, but... I had friends in there. Acadeka, instead of French Club, my parents accused me of weed consumption. No! Is that a weed? I'm calling the weed. In middle school, I would download a ton of music and make mixtapes. Yeah, I miss that. I miss that. Like, I want to say, did someone do that for me? I feel like someone did that for me. Like, either a friend or someone who was crushing on me, like, back in the day. I don't remember. But I think I do remember receiving, like, a mixtape from someone. The Dead South is a step in the right direction, maybe. Dead South is great. Ooh, okay, okay. We still have a couple of my mixtapes and CDs. Oh, nice. Back when episodes were split into several parts and one of the parts in the middle was missing. Yes! Yes, trying to watch Naruto on YouTube. Which, by the way, as I was, like, preparing for this decade study, I found out... Do you guys know what the origin of YouTube is? Like, do you guys know why the people who made YouTube? Because I actually didn't know this part. So it was because of... Okay, how many of you guys are familiar with Nipplegate? Basically, there was like a Super Bowl halftime show where it was Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake, and during the performance it was scripted that he was supposed to pull apart, like, I'm pretty sure it was scripted, like he like was supposed to pull apart like her costume, Janet Jackson's costume, and it was like supposed to reveal something, but like, I don't know, they said that it wasn't intentional. There was like a whole thing, and basically like you could see Janet Jackson's nipple during that time. So like this big thing had happened on live national television, and there was a group of people who were trying to see that video, but they couldn't find it online anywhere. So they established YouTube. Like, and it's like, wow, that's the reason, huh? Like, let's see. I made mix CDs for Goji when we were dating. Oh, wait, that's so cute. That's so cute. But Dad, Lincoln underscore Park underscore in the end .exe is totally legit. Yep, and Friendster was because a guy wanted to date his friend's good-looking female friends. And Facebook was like made in order to rate like his college friends' faces. Crazy business, right? Truly a canon event. You'd have to find the missing part from a different channel, and it overlapped and had different colored subtitles. Exactly. This is the most 2000 songs. Yeah. Say it ain't so. I will not go. My friend and I lost out at... Wait. My friend and I lost out at jobs at our local Build-A-Bear because we'd started watching YouTube and we say Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge quotes. Oh my gosh. Screw the rules, I have green hair. Exactly. Exactly. Let's see. So yeah, the big major political event of this time was the World Trade Center attacks on 9/11. So on September the 11th, morning of, two planes that were hijacked by terrorists from, I believe it was Al-Qaeda or Al-Qaeda. They hijacked those planes and then they flew them straight into the two Twin Towers, as well as the Pentagon. I do remember hearing that the Pentagon was also like struck in that one, as well as a couple of other sites. So big, huge national tragedy. I know a lot of people meme on it nowadays, but it was like a really big national tragedy, and it's kind of like I think this is kind of like one of those defining events that kind of changes the entire course of like Western history from that point onward, but also one of those factors that kind of separates generations, because the big question to like kind of like date someone is, do you remember 9/11? And this is actually one of those big events that I can actually say, like, yeah, I actually do remember 9/11. Because I was, let's see, this was 2001. I was 10. I was 10 at the time. So, like, I distinctly remember it happened, like, early enough that I had not gone to school yet, I want to say. Or for some reason, my parents kept me from going to school. I don't quite remember why. And you have to remember that I'm also, like, in PST time zone. So I don't know. I actually don't know what time it happened in New York. But I think, I just remember, like, I did not go to school that day. So, but my parents had like called me into their room. I remember they had this big, like huge, like box TV in their room, like humongous, like it took up half the room. And we were like watching it on that TV. And like, I remember my parents were both just like freaked the heck out. And like, I didn't really understand the gravity of the situation. Like, I remember like being kind of like scared and weirded out by it, but like, I didn't really grasp like how serious it was. I remember thinking it was fake. It happened before school started, and we still went to school. Oh, yeah, I feel like it did happen before school started because I keep hearing other people say like, "Oh, like we were in school and it happened." But for me, I remember not going to school at all, and I think it's because of the time zone difference. I think it still was early enough that we didn't go to we weren't at school yet, basically. 'Cause I remember it was the morning, and my parents were like telling me about it. The teacher stopped class and calmly stated what had happened to us. Oh, I was in English class. We didn't have class for the rest of the day because the adults were just kind of glued to the TVs. Yeah, which is fair, right? Fair. So yeah, I just remember like not going to school that day. And then I remember, like I said, I didn't really grasp the like gravity of the situation, like what that meant, and like just like the total loss of life. So like, I remember even like lamenting the fact that like I couldn't watch my regular shows that day, you know, like this is how like out of touch I was of like oh man, they're still talking about it on the news. I can't watch my cartoons, you know, like I can't watch The Simpsons. And you know, I feel like that's just such a I was kind of embarrassed to talk about it when I was like in my teens, and then as I was like in my 20s to 30s, like people were coming out more with like how much they didn't understand it and like and like those reactions that are very like, yeah, that's very much like what a kid would think of like, I can't watch my cartoons, you know. Well, like adults are like, oh my god, you know, this is terrible, this is like crazy. I remember it was pouring when I was let's see, where I live, so we didn't go to the school, so I watched it live on the news. Oh dang. I was young enough that I don't remember it personally, and living on the West Coast didn't help, but my roommate in college was from NJ next to the NYC and remembers that day clearly. Ah, I see. I see. Is Georgia Bush? Wow. Yeah, okay, this is another thing to like kind of to chat about, especially to like kind of change the tone too of like yeah, this is like a big national tragedy and stuff, but like George Bush was also kind of like a big part of the 2000s, as I mentioned before. Like the majority of the decade was his presidency in Bear America, so we could talk about that. But let me catch up on chat. I remember talking to a friend during recess and going, "Why are we at school right now?" You probably like were more what's it called, like in tune with what was happening compared to like most of our other classmates then, because I just remember being like man, I can't watch my cartoons. I didn't understand until we went to the conference thing and we couldn't go to the terminals to buy food anymore. Oh, yeah. So, like, in terms of 9/11, like, it was big because it jump-started the war on terror. So, like, George Bush, the president at the time, W. Bush, at the time, he started this war on terror essentially to, like, find the terrorist group that did this, but almost also kind of, like, as an excuse as well to kind of, like, set up these invasions and wars in West Asia to like there's a whole bunch of different reasons, but a lot of people will tell you that like, oh, one, oil, two, to like de-seat or de-platform like whoever was in power over there, but also like pretty much revenge for 9/11. So like while it was started because of like 9/11, like what's unfortunate is that like there were so many people that died during 9/11 itself, but there's also a lot of people who died as a result of the war on terror, as well as like the various hate crimes and discrimination that came out of 9/11 and the war on terror, because like widespread Islamophobia, which arguably still like stands to nowadays, you know. And also like things like TSA at the airport, which like ultimately it's good that we have security on the airport. It's just that like that's why when you go to LAX specifically, the most hellish airport on earth probably, you do have to go 3 hours in advance for that reason. Oh, okay, I'm sure there's like worse airports, but like if we're talking about major airports, I don't know, man. Like I feel like LAX is pretty up there. It's gonna be me. It's likely because I wasn't really raised with kid gloves. My mom was just like, if an emergency happens here, she has to be at the hospital and I have to go get back home from school and take care of myself. Ah, we were opposites then, because I grew up super like Not necessarily privileged because we were poor as hell, but like sheltered. We'll say sheltered. It's gonna be June though. But it's May. It's May, and it's gonna be May. It's gonna be May 23rd. That's why it's gonna be May 23rd. So yeah, all of that kind of happened. Similar to the 1980s, this period saw an increase in right-wing and populist sentiment, and in response to Islamophobic and anti-immigration ideology. I was gonna make the same May 23rd joke. And then this picture here with the colorful money is the EU. This is the euro. So I think the EU was formed in the 90s. I actually didn't look it up. But I know that like a bunch of European countries started using the euro by this point. And then, of course, there was the 2008 financial and housing crisis, which I'm going to be real with you. I don't remember it as much. And I think there's various reasons for that. One of them being that like I was a kid at the time, and like I said, my parents did shelter me from a lot of different things growing up. I didn't even know they had a drug habit. Like that's how much they like sheltered me, right? But also like the thing is we were already poor. like even before the 2008 financial crisis, we were already kind of like on food stamps. We were on like Section 8 housing. So like, you know, it's kind of like, oh, people are losing their jobs and like people are getting I'm already poor. Like my dad's already like lost his job multiple times. So maybe that's why I didn't really like grow up really feeling like, oh yeah, 2008, you know, like that was hard. It's like it kind of was hard all around, but that's just me. That's just like my personal thing. The EU totally a sign of the times. Too big to fail. It's true. Hello, Battlecrackers. I remember talking about that in high school French because there was talk about francs versus euros in culture units. Oh, interesting. Cool. My parents were small business owners, so 2008 was one of the childhood events I remember clearly. Ah, interesting. But yeah, so like for me, I didn't like. It's very possible that if I go back to my parents and ask them like how was 2008, then they might be like, oh yeah, that was rough, you know. But it's like I don't know. This is gonna sound like depressing and not, you know, this isn't bait to be like, oh, pat binka, but like it's one of those things where it's like I just remember a lot of like other traumatic things happening in that time period. So so there was that. The main issue about 2008 I remember was struggling to get any job. How was 2008? 1,000-yard stare. Exactly. It all kind of blends in, you know. Lastly, before we get into talking about W, because I want to talk about W. Like, I want to talk about W. And just kind of like, almost like the meme culture back then. So there were like a lot of natural disasters as well. W. There was a 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which I didn't actually know too much about, but it was probably like one of the highest fatalities in a whole bunch of different countries. W, more of an L, really. George L. Got him. And then Hurricane Katrina. So I just have a very specific memory when it came to Hurricane Katrina because it was definitely like a natural disaster, and it definitely displaced a lot of people's like communities and homes. Nothing to fear but FEMA itself. More like Hurricane Tortilla. So there was that, but I just had like a very specific memory of being in high school, specifically like ninth grade science class, and the teacher was like, you know, lecturing and stuff. And then students came in and they were like, oh, we're collecting money for Katrina. And then like everyone looked over because we had a student who was also Filipina and her name was Katrina. And like for some reason none of us registered that they meant Hurricane Katrina, and everyone was just like, why are we raising money for Katrina? I don't know, that's like the main like core memory that I have with like Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Tortilla. My high school almost doubled in size. Oh dang. Beat me to it. But yeah, like that was my memory of like, why are we I just remember don't eat the watermelons. So something I remember very clearly was freshman in college, and the dorm that had recently been shut down was reopened for Katrina refugees. Oh, wow. Nice. Well, there you go. This also led me, this and like the picture of Bush just reminded me of like the Kanye West, like George Bush doesn't care about black people. And then freaking what's his face? Austin Powers guy. Just looking over, just being like So there was that, and Mike Myers, there we go. I was like, why did I forget his name? Yeah, Mike Myers just being right next to him, being like wait, is this Pussycat Dolls? What is this? No, it's NSYNC. This I promise you. Okay, let's see. The kids going around collecting Katrina relief at my school got in trouble for obviously not caring at all because their pitch included, it's like, you know, bad and stuff. He said that next to Shrek. Donkey. But yeah, well, I think with what folk said, it's like, what do you expect from like kids that are so divorced and like desensitized to like what's happening, you know? Donkey. I think it was Katrina, but it was the first time I noticed on Yahoo News article. It said guy looting on one image and guy surviving in another. Yes! The one where it's like a black guy and a white guy. And they're both like, you know, like wading through waters with stuff on under their arms. But the white guy says like surviving. And then the black guy says looting. And it's one of those like, those moments of like, when did you realize that like you had class consciousness? Or like, when did you realize that like, you know, the world is the way that it is, you know? Last bullet point I have here, same-sex marriage legalized in the Netherlands in 2001 and then eventually Mexico, USA, and 10 other countries by 2009. And I do remember that, actually. I remember that being a thing in high school where like we were talking about the elections, and I very specifically remember this one chick from high school like saying that she disagreed with like granting same-sex marriage. And her argument, I'm hoping that she's changed since then. I'm really hoping that she's changed since then, but yeah, it was Prop 8. Exactly, it was Prop 8. And I remember her argument being something like, don't like gay people get enough already, you know? Like, don't they have it, they already have it fine, you know? They can live with their significant others. Why do they need to get married? I just remember that being like a thing that she said, and like it was already like our senior year of high school, and I was already like never gonna see her again. And I remember in my head being like, oh, I'm glad I'm never seeing you again. I'm hoping she changed. Like, she was very sweet other than that one time. But I just remember being like, bro, what? Like, it's probably why I hung out with so many counterculture types growing up. Yeah, I kind of specifically remember you for that. You were the cool guy. My response was always tax purposes. I was stupid I didn't wake up to this stuff until I was an adult. Oh, y'all would have hated 2000s folk. Well, also the 2000s was a weird time. It was also a very mean time. Like, it's something that I didn't really realize until I was like making like I was researching for this, and then I saw a Reddit article being like the 2000s were a very mean-spirited time, and immediately I was like, no, it wasn't. I was thinking about the 2010s. I was thinking about the 2010s. But the 2000s was like very mean-spirited in many ways. Like when we get to pop culture, I forgot about the freaking like I didn't forget about Dave Chappelle, but I forgot about the Andy Milonakis show. What else? Like Crank Yankers, stuff like that. What was that one channel that was just video games? It was like video games, but also like the Man Show and stuff like that. And it's like, if you go back and watch those things, it's like, yeah, that time period was like really mean, you know? My response, let's see, I can't say anything more about my childhood without trauma dumping. I get it. I was in middle school during Prop 8 and sadly remember a lot of slurs being said around school. Yeah. Yes, exactly. You guys got a G4. G4. Yep, people getting relentlessly bullied online. Yeah. Like, this was a very, like, you know, mean-spirited, like, decade. And a lot of us were kind of desensitized to it, to the point where, like, I don't know if it's okay for me to say this or not, but I remember, like, in high school, we had access to computers in our, like, there was this teacher that was in charge of, like, stage decoration, or what is it? Like, stage production, but, like, the backgrounds and stuff, and, like, the logistics of, like, the scenery of like a stage production. So I was in that class and we had access to computers because the guy was also the teacher for metal shop and a whole bunch of other like shop like electives. So everyone was usually on the computer. Yeah, yes, exactly, Mega Bronson. I'm glad. For those who don't know, Mega Bronson and me and Beans all went to the same high school. So So we share a lot of different memories. But I remember on those computers, there was no, at least back then, there was no like security in terms of like what people were looking at. I think there might have like later on in my high school, but I just remember like me and my friends, like they were looking at some weird videos. I'm not talking like, you know, like pornographic. I'm talking like violent. So like I remember doing that in high school. We were doing that in high school and we were so like desensitized to it. We were so like, oh my gosh, do you guys want to watch this video? Like, do you guys want to watch this messed up video? Because also, yeah, I'll say that too. Like I remember like we didn't watch like the following videos I'm gonna mention. We didn't watch this in class, but I do remember this was also the era of like you never forget your first goatsy and two girls one cup and one guy one jar and like, you know, all those things. Like this was the era of that, you know. And this is what I mean by like there's a lot of like weird gross things happening and we were very desensitized to it. And actually that was another thing that I like kind of like looked into when researching, is that like a lot of the things of the 2000s were very like in your face, grungy, and one man one jar, what a classic. A lot of the things were like very grungy and kind of in your face and insulting and mean spirited because of this desensitization to like, if that's even the word, to like a lot of the like bad things happening, the war on terror and 9/11 and all of these things. Let me scroll up. Let's see. Idol, hello, welcome, welcome. You got your sticker. Tech theater, stage tech. I remember getting bullied in high school for sure in the first few years of the new millennium. Yeah, definitely. I had the stage production class with the woodworking teacher too. It's who I had before film. Oh, cool. Cool math games online. There you go. A scary maze game. Oh my gosh, yes, Dub Beetle. Also, hello, Dub Beetle. The scary maze game, the one where like if you accidentally hit the wall, like, that like you would get jump scared, right? And then there was also the Korean one that I think was after the 2000s, but the Korean one where like you're reading essentially like a webtoon, but then the computer would start scrolling by itself and jump scare you. Man. Yes, exactly what Folk is saying. The era of, oh, we have an ad break coming up soon. The era of many teenagers processing watching a decapitation on the internet. Yeah, I didn't want to say it outright, but those were the videos that I was talking about. Like that's how desensitized we were, that people were just high schoolers were watching that in school. The Korean webcomic was sick. The email chains and the jump scares. Yeah, 100%. 100%. So yeah, this was definitely like an era of like kind of like mean-spiritedness, but also like the memes are like kind of funny though. Like I know this is like look at this. Bush reacts to latest Middle East violence. I think you guys might know what video this is, but I do realize we do have an ad break, so I'll let you think about all that. Oh, I'm big. Why am I large? There you go. There we go. Why was I so embiggened? Alright, we have an ad break. I'll see you guys in a little bit. Oh, no, I haven't been embiggened. No. I have to turn off all the redeems. I will refund that so that you can embiggen me in the classroom. Embiggen's the smallest bear. Alright, let me turn all these off. I'll see you guys in a bit. Hey, get your stickers. I love your cute little low poly model. Thank you. And you know who made it? Gojikins in chat. Have to bounce. Have a lovely stream. Thank you for dropping by. Thank you for dropping by. Yeah, if you guys like my low poly model, Gojikins was the one who made it. So yeah, thank you. You get your stickers. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'm just turning off some. I'm manually turning off some redeems. There you go. So you guys don't waste your points. What's wrong? What's happening? Okay. Oh, this is a big deal. Here, have some bread. Was I unmuted this whole time? Did you guys hear me talking to Schnackery? Oh no. I didn't realize I was unmuted that whole time. Well, at least I wasn't like, ah, those freaking SOBs. Stupid Babine Cubs. Disable. Okay, cool. Alright, I re-enabled a whole bunch of redeems. So let me go back to the stream manager. Guys, it's freaking Linkin Park. Be what you want me to be. You think you did? I don't even remember what I said to Schnackery. I feel like I accidentally scared him. And I was like, oh, why you so scared? My big baby. I call him my big fat chungus. So I'm like, oh, who's my scared little chungus? And like, Beans doesn't like this, but I always like to be like, oh, who's a big stupid idiot? Who's a big little guy who doesn't know math, who doesn't know long division? But my argument is that Schnackery doesn't understand. He understands the tone, right? He understands the tone. He doesn't know that I'm calling him a big stupid idiot, you know? Like, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Is that too mean? Is that too mean that I'm calling him a big fat idiot? But it's true. Schnackery doesn't know long division. Schnackery, what's 22/7? See, nothing. Silence. He's not even attempting that equation. Not even attempting it. Alright, anyway, let's get back to it. We call our cats idiots all the time. Why am I small now? There we go. Big. 21. Ayo, we 21. Alright, I'm back to looking perpetually shocked. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. All I want to do is be more like me. I'm trying to like make it so I'm not shocked all the time. Give me a second. I guess I just have to be constantly smiling. I think I just have to be constantly smiling. Alright, do we progress from here or do I try to fix this? Give me a second. Becoming this. It's okay. The 2000s was a shocking time, right? It was a shocking time. What was the number the kid would say in the video? The guy recording him tells him, "You stupid." I actually don't know. I actually haven't heard of that one. Or maybe I have, but I don't remember. But I think I always go to 22/7 because isn't that pi? Right? You know what? No, I can't do long division. Oh, it's 3.14. It's close enough to pi. It's not pi like 21. Hey, we 21. I guess it is 21. 21. Stupid. Okay, let's get back into it. Oh my god, it's Alicia Keys! I'm gonna put the song up a little bit for this one. Actually, no, I have to pause it because we're gonna look at some W right now. We're gonna look at some W. Okay, so for those that didn't grow up during this era, once again the president of this time was George W. Bush, who is the son of George H.W. Bush. He won the presidency after a very contentious election where he was running against Al Gore, who before that Al Gore was the vice president to Bill Clinton. Excuse me, had to burp. And basically there was a lot of controversy because there was like certain what's 9 plus 10? 21? You stupid. I don't think I've seen that one. Was it a Vine? I feel like I usually know my Vines, but if it's a TikTok, then alas not. But yeah, so like he got the presidency, but it was kind of by a very slim margin. And it's a Vine? I can't believe I missed out on this. I'm so fake. I mean, road work ahead. I sure hope it does. The other one I like is the like, oh my god, he on X Games. Okay. Plus 9 is 21 meme. Alright, let's check this out. You stupid. 21? I don't know why this also reminds me of the one Vine that's like, what's up, my name is Trey, I got a shoot game. Well, now we're just gonna look at Vines. Is that what you guys wanted? My name is Trey. My name Jeff. Was it Trey? I got a shoot game. There we go. I got a basketball game tomorrow. Got a shoot game. What the heck? Hello? I'm a point guard. I got a shoot game. What up, my name is Trey. I got a basketball game. I got a basketball game tomorrow. There's just something so cute about that one. I'm a point guard. It's a shoot game. Okay, we're getting distracted. So, W won the election by a very slim margin, and a lot of people were like, oh, there's like this whole thing with like recounting votes in Florida and all of that. But regardless, he did get elected. He served his full 2 terms, and he was memed on a lot because he flubbed just a lot of sayings. Like, he would say some pretty like baffling things sometimes, and he was just like kind of like memed on for essentially being stupid, for essentially being like kind of dumb. And, you know, I'm not gonna go one way. Okay, so I am gonna go one way or another because, like I said, the war on terror was really bad and how many lives it ultimately took, and the, like, growing Islamophobia and stuff. But also, like, there is a little bit of fondness as well because, like, he was memed on so much, and, like, he said some stuff that was just, like, dumb, you know? And, like, I think it, like, added to his charm in a way. Strategy. My favorite is this one, the fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, you can't get fooled again. Let's watch it. You can see like the gears working in his head. You could see that he already knew that he like effed up, and I think the reason why there's a little bit of like nostalgia and like kind of charm to it is because I feel like we've all been in that spot before where it's like you're talking and then suddenly like, oh, what was I supposed to say? Or like, how did that go again? I love when J. Cole used that as a sample. Yes, exactly what Nap is saying. So, like, it was more charming stupid than dangerous stupid we have today. Yes, 100%. Especially the next one. Like, this next one is, like, it kills me every time. Especially with the title of this video. Bush reacts to latest Middle East violence. Alright? Like, this is a president of the United States of Bear America reacting to violence in West Asia, and this is his response. You know what? We could watch this directly on YouTube. The heck was that? Is there subtitles? Not the shaking of the head. Stop the terror. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Wait for it. Wow. Wow. What a drive. Look at the way he also drives away. Look at the look at the way he's sitting the way he's sitting as his dad drives him away. He sits like a kid. Now watch this drive. Just talking about like violence in like the Middle East and in West Asia. So anyway, watch this drive. Can you imagine that? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the older Bush, right? It kind of looks like it is. I kind of assumed it was. It kind of looks like it's the older Bush. I can't say for sure. Yeah, I think it is. Like when he just smiled to the camera just now. I think that's HW, right? I want to say. I'm so used to seeing parodies of him that everything I see of him feels fake, right? I caught this from the I caught this from the comment section. President Bush, what are you gonna do about Katrina? I'm gonna bring her to justice. Again, it's so like, yes, that is such a Bushism, you know? W art appreciation when he actually does do art. I think another surprising thing about W is that he's like fluent in Spanish. Right? Like, he still has, like, a very noticeable, like, American accent when he speaks it, but he is, like, apparently fluent in Spanish. In another life, W would have just been a lovable goofball, but he had to get into politics. Yes, I actually watched a biopic about him. And it does, like, it is still propaganda in the same way that Anastasia is Zara's propaganda, if you really think about it. But, like, it did kind of paint W in this light of, like, I feel like he was meant to just be, like, kind of like a goofball in politics, but instead he became the president. You know? like, in another world, Al Gore would have been president, but anyway. But yeah, I do know that there's, let me see his art, because I do remember, like, there was a post I saw of, art of every, like president's, like, doodles as they're, like, bored. Art by George W. Bush. I almost wrote out W. He's not bad. Oh yeah, this is pretty cool. He does like portraits and stuff. Okay. He did portraits of soldiers. The best trick W did was convincing people he was Texan. Is he not? Like, wait, is he not? The ones he gave PTSD. There you go. There you go. Alright, with that, let us go ahead and restart the music. The Alicia Keys. Oh, he's a rich New England boy. Yeah, you know what? That does make sense. That does make sense. Because he's quite literally a Nepo baby. Because, like, HW and also the entire Bush family. It's one of those things where, like, you can connect a whole bunch of different presidents together via their family trees. Including Obama, by the way. Anyway. So, yeah. We haven't even gone through current events, you guys. So, technology. Let's talk about technology because technology definitely boomed during this time. It booms every decade, but like the way in which it boomed, included things like what we talked about before with like the growth and increased accessibility to the internet. But you also got the popularization of mobile phones during this time, as well as text messaging and email. Instead of not over, but email instead of snail mail. I do remember that was a term to refer to like old school, like, you know, put a stamp on it and write it down type of mail as opposed to email. And yeah, like I think this is a pretty neat picture because yeah, this is a mobile phone. Back when one of my first phones was like the Nokia like brick phone, and texting with that, for those who don't know like how texting was done before like touchscreens and stuff, you had that exact phone, yeah. Like it was done with the keypad. So, you know, like if you wanted to spell out I love you, you would have to go to like, what is it? It's like, what? Wait, what was it again? Now I gotta look at, oh, got a alert, an Amber alert. Looking at my own keypad. Okay, I'm looking at my own keypad right now. If you wanted to spell out I love you, it would be 4 and then space and then, oh no, you press 4 3 times and then a space, and then it would be 5 3 times, and then 6 3 times, 8 3 times, 3 2 times, space, and then if you just want to shorten it to the letter U, then 8 2 times. So you have to do that, and then like this was such a big deal back when like wait, a phone with a full keyboard? Crazy business. And they would like fold like this. That was like such cool technology for the time. I thought it was soldiers that died, but I only just remember a small snippet. I just remember going, what the F, and it filed it away in my brain. I remember one of the phones that I had for a very short while, but I really liked it, was like the chocolate. There was a phone called the chocolate, and I had it, and then I put it in my cubby for dance class, and someone stole it. That might be the case for some of them, but most are veterans. Okay. This time was also the time of USB replacing floppy disks for low capacity mobile storage. I do remember still using floppy disks up until like, I want to say middle school, but yeah, USBs would eventually replace them. Growth and increased accessibility of the internet, particularly without telephone lines. And because of this increased accessibility, you started to get the advent of social media, starting with some sites that people don't know anymore, but Friendster, Xanga, and MySpace. I never had a Friendster, but I remember this was like a big thing with my, I have half siblings that live in the Philippines, and they were like really big over Friendster. And then I did have a Xanga and a MySpace, and the cool thing about these two sites is that they really allowed you to personalize your website. So a lot of people of my generation were able to kind of like, if you were able to learn a little bit of HTML and CSS, or if you knew how to steal, if you knew how to like just like Google it and find like code from other websites, you were able to actually like make your site look a certain way. The soggy bottom boys, exactly. Did you discuss the Filipino parent testing styles? I don't know if that would be 2000s or 90s. No, I don't think I did. Wait, what do you mean Filipino parent testing styles? Because I just remember my parents being all around strict. So yeah. But do feel free to tell me more. Tell me more. And then eventually, social media would extend into sites such as Twitter and Facebook, and then widespread popularization of Google, YouTube, and Wikipedia. So there was a time before all of these websites. I kind of went over the advent of YouTube. But I remember when Wikipedia was first starting out, there wasn't a lot of oversight. Like, one of the big things about Wikipedia is that, like, it was contributed, like, each article was contributed to from the community. And I remember a lot of teachers back in the day of, like, high school and early college for me were like, don't depend on Wikipedia. Because anyone can add to it. Not everything on there is factual. And, you know, like, which is fair. All of that is fair, right? So we didn't, like, use Wikipedia. And if we did, our teachers would instead advise us to look at the references instead of actually using the wiki article itself. Oh, texting styles. All of the words would be without vowels to save time while typing. Yes. Yes, and what's interesting is that there is someone that I know from high school that up until college, she would still text that way, and it kind of bugged the hell out of me. But yeah, there was also like this typing style that you would see in a lot of like Zengas and MySpaces, where it was like the you would mix it up between like uppercase and lowercase. So for example, my name would be spelled like let me see if I could do this. I used to be able to do this really fast. But then also like underscore. Yes, exactly. There we go. I missed an underscore. But yeah, you would type like exactly how Mega Bronson did. That was the style of the time, you know? For most of my schooling, they were very anti-Wikipedia. Yeah, the weird thing is nowadays it's actually very well like managed, and there's a lot of oversight, and there's even like a log of like who was changing what. It depends on the article, right? Because I remember talking with one of my colleagues at work about like the article for Poseidon has a lot of weird repetition and a lot of weird like tone shifts with it. That I'm like, I feel like no one is looking over like that article for some reason. But for the most part, like a lot of like very specific Wikipedia articles like are meant to have like you know factual evidence as well as like good citations. So it has changed where like Wikipedia has become way more of a dependable source of information, especially in comparison to say like AI. You know, Homestuck. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, back then, yeah, Wikipedia wasn't as dependable, and then there was a point where Amazon overtook eBay in commerce. So before, like, if you wanted to buy something off the internet, you would use eBay, and Amazon was mostly for books. But eventually, Amazon would like expand into like other things, and now it's the big conglomerate that it is now. But I do remember, like, I remember when I was like shortly after I turned like 18. um Yeah, like 2009. Yeah, 2009 is when I turned 18. My parents went from being super duper strict to like they wouldn't even let me go to like friends parties. Like I never went to like a friend's party that wasn't like related to me. They went from being super strict to completely hands off, completely like laissez-faire. You could do whatever you want. You could party, you could do whatever, you know, which is so weird because like if you grow up under like very strict conditions only for them to be like, yeah, do a drug, whatever. Then it was kind of odd, but I also remember that they stopped giving me an allowance, and eventually they're like, you're kind of on your own, like you need to make your own money. So I ended up selling a lot of things on eBay and Amazon, and I remember like trying to weigh my options of like which one was easier to do. Yeah, happy 18th birthday, have some crack. My history professors were actually the first teachers I had that were cool with Wikipedia, specifically to find good sources. Same actually, like it was mostly my history professors. Binka, is that a weed? Oh my gosh, dude. So, I don't know if I shared this bit of lore with any of the newer folks here, but like my parents did like heavy drugs when I was growing up, but I didn't know about it until I was in college. And once like it had kind of been like out in the open and we kind of started talking more about it, my parents told me like all the different drugs that they did. You know, it included things like crack, meth, and it was to the point where like there was this one time where I told them that like I was already in my 20s by this point. I told them that like I couldn't handle edibles and really strong weed because it would freak me out. It would make me like super anxious. And my parents like I don't think they meant to like make it into a competition, but my dad especially was like, "Oh, you think that's freaky? You wish you knew what it was like to be on like under crack." Like, and I'm like, "No, I don't. I don't want to know what crack is like." But he would like seriously roast me for being like, "Oh, weed makes you anxious." Like, and my mom would be like, "Oh, you know when I used to do meth, like I used to think that people were in the trees watching me, so I would just hide. I would hide a lot." Yeah, my parents said I'm a square. They're like, "What do you mean weed gives you anxiety?" And I'm over here like, "It's not just me. I have other friends who get anxiety from weed. Skill issue, to be honest." For real, for real. And this could only happen when I was like in my 20s to like nowadays, you know? Like when I was 18, my parents would never like even give me an inkling that they ever did drugs. And what's funny is that I caught them when I was younger, but I didn't understand what I was seeing. You know, like I literally saw them with a pipe. But back then I didn't know what that was. So it was like, oh, I don't know what they're doing. And I don't know why they're so mad at me that I've caught them. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Like, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, there was a point where like I needed to make my own money. So I basically like chose eBay over Amazon. You're addicted to weed? I suck dick for crack cocaine and I seen it. Dude, the stories get crazy. It's like the more comfortable my parents get with me, the more uncomfortable like I get. It's like, no, I don't want to hear your adventures into like how you got those drugs. Okay, let's get into it. Let's see. So MP3 players and the iPod of all things. You guys remember this? The iPod, before it was a phone, it was simply a pod. It's true. Began to replace portable cassette and CD players, and DVDs and Blu-rays replaced VHS tapes. So just the aesthetics of this looks so, I don't know, satisfying. But yeah, this was like the iPod mini question mark. Was this the mini? Because the nano was like the really small one, right? No, I'm thinking about the shuffle. Is this the mini? Anyway, so there were MP3 players, there were like iPods, so just this big one. And then eventually they would end up becoming smartphones, but that wouldn't be until the end of the decade. There was also flat screen TVs became popular, which continues on into nowadays. And then continued concerns with climate change and environmentalism led to popularization of crude oil energy alternatives. Zune supremacy. I had a friend in middle school that had a Zune, and we would take the school bus together, and he would let me listen to his anime music on his Zune. I just remember like always listening and being like, can I listen to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Japanese opening Overlap by Kimeru for Battle City? But yeah, this was the beginning of people trying to look for alternatives to crude oil such as solar, electric, and hybrid. But it wasn't as widespread as it is nowadays, of course. So more technology in cars such as GPS systems, xenon headlights, DVD players, heads-up display, USB compatibility, aka the idea of passing the aux cord. Like if you're traveling with friends and you want to listen to like your music, you would have to plug it in via like an aux cord, right? Keyless starting for cars, blind spot cameras, and backup cameras. This is definitely more prevalent nowadays, but like this was kind of like the beginning of all those things. And GPS systems meant less people relying on those big books of maps. So if any of you grew up in like say like the 90s or 80s, there was like the way that people would navigate before things like MapQuest or Google Maps was like there was basically like a big old like book of maps, and you would look at your immediate area and you would get familiarized with that area. So to this day, my dad actually can navigate Los Bincos without a map, like pretty reliably. He still uses it. He still uses like Google Maps for like what's the fastest route. But if he didn't have that, he would be able to navigate throughout most of downtown Los Bincos without any problem. So that's pretty cool in my opinion. It's also where he got all those drugs. Anyway, in astronomy, this was also this was pretty big because there was a discovery of what's called a Kuiper Belt object. This is basically a new planet called Eris. Eris was named after the goddess of Discord, not Discord the platform, but Discord the concept of like disharmony, basically. And it was very apt because the discovery of this object, which by the way, like if for those that don't know too much about astronomy, we in the solar system are surrounded essentially by a cloud of what's called the Kuiper Belt. Or no, actually the Oort cloud, but within that is also the Kuiper Belt, which think of it like another asteroid belt, but just way further out. My first thought was Discord MLP. I know a few Discord goddesses, that's crazy. You crazy for that. Anyway. So the Kuiper Belt is kind of like the asteroid belt, but just way further out, like further than where Pluto is, essentially. So this object was big enough to be located with telescopes, and it essentially counted as a planet. However, there were certain qualities that it was missing in order to make it a full planet, such as like it had an elliptical orbit, and I guess it didn't clear its immediate what's called like spatial neighborhood. Essentially, like, it's not the only thing in its orbit. However, when astronomers were looking at this, they also realized that, like, wait, there is also a planet that we've been calling a planet for a very long time that also has an elliptical orbit, also hasn't cleared its astronomical neighborhood. In fact, it crosses orbit with Neptune, so sometimes it's actually the 8th planet instead of the 9th planet. It's very odd in that way. So the discovery of this faraway planet led to this discussion of, wait, what actually is a planet? And it drew a lot of controversy because it eventually, what came out of it was the redesignation of Pluto as not a planet, but a dwarf planet. So basically, like, the people at this convention, they created a new category called dwarf planet, where, like, these are objects that they still orbit around the sun. However, their orbits might not be regular, and they haven't, quote unquote, cleared their astronomical neighborhood. Essentially, like, there's other things in its orbit. So, like, this would lead to that reclassification, and a lot of people, especially for the nostalgia, are like, I still think Pluto is a planet. But once you kind of learn the astronomical reasoning behind it, in my opinion, it's pretty sound, because if you're going to acknowledge that Pluto is a planet, you're gonna have to also acknowledge Eris, as well as a whole bunch of other dwarf planets. And to demonstrate this, let's take a look at all the dwarf planets that we're gonna have to memorize if we acknowledge Pluto as a planet. So, if you acknowledge Pluto as a planet, you're also going to have to acknowledge Ceres, Haumea, Makemake, Eris. Oh, actually, I thought there were more. There used to be more, because there's one that's, like, very oblong. Here we go. So, Ceres, Pluto, Quaoar, Sedna, Orcus, Haumea, Eris, Makemake, and Gongong. Which, if you're cool with that, cool. So, like, if you're cool with adding 9 more planets to the list of like, planets that we already have to memorize, awesome. Go for it. The only thing is, like, you know, for ease of teaching the planets, but also for ease of just, like, understanding our solar system, I think it does make sense to designate Pluto as a dwarf planet. Dwarf planet, Pluto sheeple are like, if you make Pluto a planet, hundreds of dwarf planets need to be planets. Well, I say yes, they all deserve to be planets if you're able to memorize all of them. If you're able to memorize all of them, and then you also need to make a new, what's it called, mnemonic device. Because the current one is, what is it? My very earnest mother just sold new... Oh, I forgot what it was. I forgot what it was, but now you're gonna have to do it with all these. So do it. So do it. Tell me more about Makemake. But yeah, so, like, let's see, planet discriminants. Also, add them to the astrology charts too. But I do think it's cool. I also just think, like, it's kind of a, in my opinion, it's a neater solution to everything. Because now you have the secondary designation. Compared to, like, the planets that are a little bit more straightforward, you know? I say yes to more planets. I memorized the whole table of elements in middle school. 9 more planets sounds easy. Same, actually. Same. No, but yeah, I don't know. In my opinion, it's just neater this way. It's just neater, especially if you actually study astronomy as well. Like, the designation just makes a lot more sense when you look at it through this lens. But, okay, so there's that. And then continuous habitation of the International Space Station. So, from this point, and I think up until now, there has always been at least one human being in the International Space Station. So that's pretty cool as well. Here's a couple more examples of technology of the time. So we have our digital cameras. We also have this cool aesthetic. Look what you've started now, Steve Jobs. Yeah, we could talk about the aesthetics, actually. But first, let's get into pop culture. Man, we're, like, spending so much time on each thing because there's just so much to say about each thing. But let's get to pop culture, and then we'll jump quick to fashion and cars, alright? Okay, so pop culture, during the 2000s, the Gen X, where we need to bring back clear, colorful plastic and electronics. Agreed. Gen X was entering or integrated in the workforce by this point, and then millennials were growing up around this time. So, Like I said, for me personally, the 2000s was last end of elementary school to middle school to high school. I was class of '09. So, and it's funny because like I was watching a actually I don't want to get too much into it, but I just saw like a lot of social media posts about like Gen Zs and like older Gen Alphas. Now that they're growing up, they're talking about how like millennials had it so good back then. And it's like in some aspects, yeah, but then people were like, why didn't you guys take advantage of things before the what's it called 2008 recession? And it's like I was in high school during the recession. There's not much that I would have been able to do, honestly, during the recession. I don't know what you expect of me. I was 17. Like, anyway, getting into it. Youth subculture of the time included emo, scene, skater, chav, and preppy/metrosexual. I'll get into those in a little bit. Let's get into music. This is gonna take us a while. I just know it because there's just so much banger music. Once again, I'm biased because this is the era that I was growing up and this is the music I was listening to. But here are a couple of genres of choice. We have your teen pop, which includes your boy bands and your girl bands, but also your solo pop stars as well. So NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, J-Lo, Christina Aguilera, Shakira, and Lady Gaga. But Lady Gaga was actually more of 2009 and like the start of like the 2010s. I was so stupid in kindergarten. I should have been taking advantage of the recession. Right? Me too. I should have been taking advantage as like a young 17-year-old. And instead I was listening to Ursher. What was I thinking? Hip hop, especially Southern hip hop. But during this time, Eminem was really big. Outkast, Black Eyed Peas, T.I., 50 Cent, Kanye West once again before he went crazy, Nelly, Common, Nas, Busta Rhymes, Missy Elliott, MIA, Gorillaz. I freaking love Gorillaz. Luda, and Lil Jon. Yeah. Okay. Kind of coupled with hip hop at times was R&B. So this is where you got Usher. Alicia Keys, who we were listening to. Beyonce had started her solo career. And Rihanna. You also got a little bit of alt rock and pop rock, power pop, including Coldplay and Radiohead. I actually didn't listen to them that much, but I remember I had a friend who was super into Coldplay when she was in middle school. And I don't know why back then I was like, oh, she's gonna grow out of it, right? As if like our middle school hyperfixations are anything that we ever grow out of. That's like thinking that I would ever grow out of anime. You know, or ever grow out of Digimon. So I was pleased to find out that like I had reconnected with this friend in like I think during the early Instagram days, because she actually moved. She's from Colombia and she moved back to Colombia I think shortly after high school. So I remember finding her on Instagram one time and then finding out that she still liked Coldplay. And I was like, aw, I love that. I love that you held on to like what still makes you happy. So, but I just remember, yeah, in middle school, I was like, she's gonna grow out of it. But nope. So pop rock, power pop. This includes Blink-182, Simple Plan, Good Charlotte, Green Day, Sun 41. Oh no, autocorrect. Sum 41 and All American Rejects. Let's see. Pop punk emo. This was my jam right here, but like I said, I kind of listened to everything. Fall Out Boy. You know what? I know I said that I'm down for country music, but we need that pop punk right now. Let's see. Pop punk. We need that now. So pure pop punk. Here we go. Hell yeah. Do 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 do. Okay, so you got your Fall Out Boy, your MCR, Panic at the Disco, Paramore, Avril Lavigne, and way more, but those are just kind of like the big ones. And then your new metal, your System of a Down, Korn, Limp Bizkit, Slipknot, Rage Against the Machine. Like I said, some of these I didn't actually grow up listening to, and it wouldn't be until like much later that I would listen to them, but they're bangers, like System, Rage Against the Machine. Linkin Park I definitely listened to as a kid. Same with MCR, Panic. And then an interesting one is Soulja Boy, because I didn't really think about this. Avril Lavigne's Let Go album was the first album I ever owned. You know what's interesting is the first music video that I can remember watching and like being sentient of it was Avril Lavigne's, I think it was Let Go, or like I don't know if she also has a song called Let Go. Or was it I'm With You? But I think it was a song on that album that was like, I remember watching MTV for the first time and being like, oh, this channel is just music videos. And I just remember watching like an Avril Lavigne music video and being like, wow, this is so cool. Like, I love this. And I would just watch music videos over and over and over again on MTV. RIP. Did you see the Filipino wedding that was like a Mika Mikel romance and they got invited to the MCR concert in the Philippines? No, I didn't hear that. I'm jealous though. I'm jealous. What the heck? The decade where we changed from only bad people use tattoos to tattoos will help police identify you if something happens to you. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I put Soulja Boy here because one thing that I hadn't thought about until I watched a video about like the development of music in the 2000s is that the role of social media in promoting music as well as like promoting fandom. So Soulja Boy definitely popped off because it was being played on social media, but also things like YouTube. Like if you wanted to learn the dance, you could just watch it on YouTube. That was like not really a thing before. So like this was also kind of like the start of the spread of like dance culture. Not dance culture, that's incorrect, but like kind of like meme dance or just like dance trends. That's the word I'm looking for. So dance trends. So like, you know, those like TikTok dances and stuff like that. Like, of course that has roots to like dance culture in like the 70s, 80s, etc. But like the idea of like using it to promote music or to like essentially like memify a certain like dance craze came from like MySpace, came from YouTube, early YouTube. And Soulja Boy is kind of like one of the biggest examples of it. I don't think he's the first example, but he's definitely one of the biggest examples. Soulja Boy, tell him. You only found out about Soulja Boy thanks to Vesper. I kind of love that. But also like that was definitely my jam. I remember like in middle school learning the dance. Wait, was it middle school? When did Soulja Boy come out again? When did this album come out? I feel like it was either like middle or high school because I remember like teaching it to my cousins who were like kind of rich. So like they didn't really F with like, I guess, rap music that much because they were definitely more on like the preppy side of things. And I remember like teaching them the dance and then being like, no, you move it like this. So yeah, Soulja Boy was like one of those first examples. Soulja Boy, tell him. What's my age again? Actually, you know what? I know we just started pop punk, but let's listen to Soulja Boy. One of these days, I'm gonna figure out how to like, I don't know, get those little instruments that make it so that you could like see me move, right? And I will teach you guys how to do the Soulja Boy. Actually, I'm lying. I actually don't remember how to do it anymore. That Soulja Boy, then Superman, that, and watch me, you. Soulja Boy up in this hole. Anyway. Anyway. Full 3D tracking just for Soulja Boy. Exactly. I remember going to middle school dances and doing the Soulja Boy. Exactly. You get it, Nap. You get it. Dude, middle school dances are also such a concept because I remember going to middle school dances. When I said that like my parents wouldn't let me go to anything, no, actually, middle school dances were not the exception because they happened during lunchtime. So because they happened during school hours, I don't think I ever told my parents that I would go to like dances back then. This is giving me flashbacks. So I remember I wouldn't tell, and I remember like we would go to these dances and we treated it like it was the club. Like there weren't any alcoholic drinks, but there were people like, you know, what's the precursor to twerking? Like what's the precursor to that? But just like, you know, that kind of dancing essentially. And but the fact that it's like a bunch of like 6th and 7th graders doing that. Like nowadays it's like kind of cringe. I remember I was like in Sklimbo's chat talking about like the first time I ever heard a swear. Like that wasn't like from a family member, was like in 1st or 2nd grade, and it was like this kid saying that like, I'm gonna kick that guy's ass. And like I remember back then I was like, oh, this guy's tough, you know, this guy's like this guy's like gangster, you know. But in retrospect it's like, can you guys imagine like a 1st or 2nd grader saying, I'm gonna kick his ass? Like, but back then, because I was like also a 1st or 2nd grader, I was like, oh, there's gonna be a fight. The song in Apple Bottom Jeans we're at every day. Yeah, apple bottom jeans, boots with the fur, in the club. It was mostly jumping. It was jumping, but then there was like, I forget what like the precursor to like twerking was, but just like that kind of dancing, you know? Okay. Let's see. Let's go on and move on to movies. So movies at the time included Avatar, which like it was alright. It was cool because of like its 3D technology, but honestly, you could also say the same about like the Toy Story movie. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings trilogy, Spider-Man, Dark Knight. So the Spider-Man movies were also interesting because this was like the start of kind of like the superhero boom in movies. That was kind of like the precursor to like the Marvel extended universe. So Spider-Man wasn't part of that just yet, but it was like the start of Hollywood producers being like, oh, superheroes, that's a concept, you know. What else? Dark Knight was kind of that for DC. Dark Knight Rises, Pirates of the Caribbean, Transformers, oh my god, Napoleon Dynamite. The MCU did start, oh, you're right, yeah, 2008 with Iron Man. You're right. You are right. And then Napoleon Dynamite, I must have watched this movie so many times, because for one, we watched it in school during it was like life skills or something like that. It was a class where like admittedly not a lot of the other students cared. So, and I don't think the teacher really cared that. Oh, I love Gangster's Paradise. I know this isn't 2000s, but I love this song. The MCU. But yeah, our teacher didn't really care. So she would just put on like movies all the time, and Napoleon Dynamite was one of them. Do you drink 2% milk because you think you're fat? Because you're not. You could drink whole if you wanted. Gosh. So yeah, Napoleon Dynamite. And then Borat also goes into that whole theming that I told you guys of like, this was kind of like a mean-spirited time. Like, because like, did you guys hear that like, I actually never watched Borat. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I actually never watched it. But like, mostly because everyone at my school like memed on it that like, you didn't really need to watch it at that point. So like, I remember, like, doesn't it take place in, like, Kazakhstan? But it actually shows scenes more from, like, East Europe, like, Bulgaria and stuff like that. And then, my wife. And then the people that were in the movie weren't told that it was, like, satirical, that it was, like, spoofing, and then it was kind of, like, making fun of their culture. So, like, this is what I mean, that, like, it was very mean-spirited, because, like, the people didn't know that they're basically, like, lampooning their own culture. So let's see. I have been to Peston, Idaho, where they filmed Napoleon Dynamite. I have pictures of me in front of Napoleon's house in their school. That's awesome. I got hipstery with Napoleon Dynamite back in the day. I legit liked it before it got popular. Did you also? I feel like folk, you might know about this, but there was this one episode of TRL where the actor for Napoleon Dynamite was like a guest, but it was before the movie even came out. And he was just like role playing as Napoleon Dynamite, because I remember very vividly seeing like on TRL, like was it like Carson Daly was like interviewing someone, and he was like, what's your name? He's like, my name's Napoleon Dynamite. And he was just like this really quirky guy, and it wasn't until much later that it was like, oh, he's from a movie. Like, I think he was promoting his movie, because I just thought it was like a guy, you know. I just thought it was like a regular guy that just happened to be quirky, but no. It's real. It's worse than you think. Dang. The intro is filmed in a Romani village, and they lied that they were doing a documentary on their suffering. It's horrific. They manipulated starving people, constantly treated like subhumans by the rest of Europe for a throwaway gag. Exactly. Like, that's what I mean about, like, this was kind of like a mean-spirited time where that was just like a thing that people were doing. But yeah, I first saw Napoleon Dynamite in a local theater that only shows indie films before it blew up. Ah. So you really did like it before it popped off, right? So nice. Let's see what else. Shaun of the Dead. Let's see. And Borat. And then TV shows. I'm going to start going through this a little bit faster, just so that we can like finish through everything. But TV shows of the time: The Sopranos, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Breaking Bad, The Office. Over here. So all of these started in the 2000s. I think a lot of them are associated with the 2010s, but a lot of them either got their start or were actually in the 2000s. Gilmore Girls, Sex and the City, The Wire, Scrubs, Grey's Anatomy, and Arrested Development. And then a lot of satirical comedies. So Chappelle's Show, Bernie Mac, Everybody Hates Chris, The Andy Milonakis Show, which, y'all remember Andy Milonakis? Mind of Mencia, that's another person that's like, I kind of don't want to remember that guy. Mad TV, all that, even though like those last two are more so 90s, but this like idea of like sketch comedy and just like kind of like mean-spirited comedy. I know I keep on saying it, but just like a lot of the comedy back then was like very mean, you know? I saw Napoleon Dynamite. Oh yeah, I read that one. I remember Hot Topic with a lot of merch of Napoleon Dynamite. I feel like Lost in 24 should also get an honorable mention. Oh yeah, totally. Like I said, with oh my gosh, not Hollaback Girl. Yeah, a lot of stuff I'm gonna be missing just because it's like there's so many things that like I wanted to include, but it's like, this is already getting to be so much, right? Yes, Flavor Flav reality TV. And like reality TV in general had started in the 90s, but definitely popped off more during the 2000s. So like remember Simple Life with Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton. Yeah, the Flavor Flav one, that was kind of weird. I think Gordon Ramsay also started some of his shows during this time as well, I want to say. I remember Flavor Flav. The Room, released in 2003. Yes, The Visionary, The Room. Man, unironically, one of my favorite movies. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. Yeah, I wish I could include all of these, but like, there's just so much. So animation CGI became the name of the game. So you did start to see more CGI movies, especially with the advent of like Disney Pixar. In terms of shows, you have, of course, SpongeBob SquarePants, Avatar The Last Airbender, which is still one of my favorite shows to this day. Fun fact, it's one of the reasons why Beans is vegan. So Teen Titans, Ben 10, Invader Zim, Samurai Jack, Total Drama Island, all of these. And I believe some of these also fall into the category of like, what's it called? Genndy Tarkovsky films that kind of have that like googie 60s, 70s inspiration to it. Movies, especially with CGI, you have Shrek, and what's more to be said? What more do I need to say? You know? TLA is my favorite show of all time. It's so good. 100%. Same. Yeah, you got Shrek. Monsters Inc., Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, and Wall-E and Up. Pixar in general became more popular, and then in terms of adult animation, Futurama, Family Guy, American Dad, and King of the Hill. I could have sworn King of the Hill was 90s, but for some reason that's what was written in the wiki article I saw. I feel like it's 90s, so that might actually be a typo. But yeah, Futurama actually came about during this time, and what was kind of fun about Futurama is that the timeline of Futurama actually followed the actual real timeline, but offset by 1,000 years. So like, I think this started in the year 2000, but like, Fry starts off in the year 3000. Is bananas. I like to refer to Shrek as the first Academy Award picture for Best Animated Picture. Let's freaking go. Technically, SpongeBob is 90s because it came out in 1999. Oh man, this is like The Simpsons all over again. We were talking about this last time. Where it's like, technically, The Simpsons debuted December of 1989, but in my heart of hearts, it's a 90s show. But SpongeBob, you might have a little bit more leeway depending on when it debuted, but Futurama also debuted in 1999. You guys know what I mean though, right? Like, like despite the debut date, like it feels very distinctly like of the following year. Same with like when I say that Lady Gaga is technically like a 90s artist. She's more so Lady Gaga is not a 90s artist. She's more so she started in 2000, but she feels very much more like a 2010s artist, you know? The vibe of it. Okay, so consoles for video games, you got your PS2, Xbox, GameCube, Wii, Nintendo DS, Game Boy Advance. I did not have a GameCube or Wii, which means I didn't play certain Zelda games, but I do want to eventually. And then some of the, like, one of my favorite picks, or some of my favorite picks for video games. Actually, I know, you guys are kind of laying it on thick with the, like, actually. You guys, you forgot this show. Anyway, some of my favorite games from this era. Majora's Mask. Oh, so good, so good. Final Fantasy 9 and 10 came out during the 2000s. GTA San Andreas as well as GTA 3. Let's see. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Katamari Damacy. Dude, I love Katamari Damacy. One of my favorite things is how, like, when you pick up animals, they're just, like, you know, saying their usual sounds, like meow or woof woof. And then when you pick up a human, they're like screaming bloody murder. They're like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. I think it's because they're like more sentient, I guess. Like, I think it's because the humans realize the fate that is gonna befall them, while the animals are like, this is my life now. Katamari Damashi. Shadow of the Colossus, Nintendogs, Pokemon, Diamond and Pearl, and then Super Mario Galaxy and Wii Fit. I also asked Beans to like contribute a couple of video games here, and he said RE4 and Street Fighter 4. Kind of big ones for the era. The fun thing with the first episode of Futurama, they correctly accounted for the time difference for Fry being frozen at midnight, January 1st, with the timer set for 1,000 years thawing out on the afternoon of December 31st. Exactly. That's pretty cool because it goes into the whole like conversation about like leap years, into leap days, leap hours, and leap seconds. So they did the math right because like I do think a lot of people wondered like if he was frozen like right on like New Year's, like right before like the countdown, how is it that he thought out shortly like the afternoon before the countdown? And it's because of that. It's because of that time difference, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, that's a really cool fun fact. We're done with the current events in pop culture. We did it. We did it. There's a more. But wait, there's a more. There's a more. Let's start with cars first, because this is something that I researched a little bit more recently. I did my car studies this afternoon, which was pretty fun. So let's look at some cars. At first, admittedly, also because I do have a bit of like car blindness, I feel. For me, it was a little hard to differentiate between 90s and 2000s cars, but there are some notable differences, at least in comparison to say, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Here we go. There we go. So here are 90s cars, right? And then you can differentiate them pretty well from 80s cars because 80s cars are definitely more geometric. They have more like, not curves, how do I say this? More angular kind of like, more angles. Let's just say that. More angles. And overall, like 90s cars are more so like almost jelly bean shaped overall. Like compare this one from the early 90s to this one from the late 90s, right? So when we go over to the 2000s, first of all, I was starting to like not be able to tell them apart because at first, like all of them were kind of the same color of like gray or beige or like white. And I kind of lucked out with getting a couple of like really like vibrant blues and yellows and like this like little aqua colored one. But yeah, like this is where I'm starting to just be like, I can't really tell the difference. The PT Cruiser is so ugly. Look at the... You're gonna say that to the PT Cruiser's face. Look at its little eyes. Look at its little eyes. You know what's funny is my coworker actually drives a PT Cruiser and I find it very comfy. And I even asked Beans if that should be like a car that I consider. And he's like, it's not really that reliable long term. So like... But also look at those little like ooh eyes. Like what's up with that? What's with these little like ooh eyes, right? So fun fact, so a lot of these cars also have like a personal connection to me. My aunt had a PT Cruiser with a cheetah print inside. Wow. That's kitsch right there. That's kitsch. I dig that. So this was, not this exact like car, like not the car pictured here, but this car type was actually like a car that Beans drove in the 2000s. He had a Subaru. And he actually currently has a Subaru. Oh, that's right, ad break. I forgot. No. Wait, recess. Sorry, I forgot. I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'll see you guys in a bit. Alright, we're back. Sorry, I forgot about the ad break. So yeah, you probably heard that Beans drives a Subaru and then bam, ad break. That's not a very American car. I mean, he had a Ford. A Model T. My BFF drives a PT Cruiser too, so I've gotten used to it. Yeah, I think that's why I'm like, I think they're charming, right? But I think they're also kind of like, they seem kind of precarious in that, like, if you take a turn too quickly, it could tip over, you know? I don't know. Something about it. Anyway. You guys ready for some Fergalicious? Also, I fixed my expression. I realized that I was on the surprise toggle this whole time. And, wait, there we go. I was on that toggle the whole time, and I was like, why is it like that? And I realized, oh, wait, I have emotions. Anyway, Fergalicious. Actually, I want to listen to some more pop punk. So, thanks for the memories. Thanks for the murmurs. Okay. So let's talk cars of the 2000s. So, most common types of cars, actually throughout, like not even early, mid, and late 2000s, just across the board, most common types of cars that you're going to be seeing are Japanese sedans, especially Toyota Camrys and Honda Accords, minivans, including the Ford Explorer, Honda CR-V, and then compact cars, including the PT Cruiser, as we have here with the little uwu eyes. Like, what's going on with that? Look at those headlights. What's going on there? They weren't so great. The Subaru Outback Legacy, and then Beans also had some recommendations, and my dad had a recommendation. So a lot of these cars, well, not a lot, like at least a couple of these cars are actually based off cars that, like, at one point Beans or my dad had. So the 2001 Subaru WRX Impreza, specifically the bug eye. So Beans used to have a car that looks like this, but gray. I kind of remember it too. He's a manual kind of guy. And then for mid-2000s, pretty much the same, but also with the Chevy Impala, Malibu, and Pontiac Grand Prix. When we get to 2010s, I'm going to be pointing at the screen like a soy jack for the entire stream. Same. Let's see. So Bean's recommendation for the mid-2000s was the Ford Explorer, which I think is one of these. I want to say it's one of these. And then my dad's recommendation was the 2005 Honda Pilot. So, yeah, like things like SUVs and minivans were also becoming popular. Your usual, like, soccer mom car, you know? My first car was my mom's old 2000 Pontiac Grand Prix. Love that car. Nice. My first was a 1996 Honda Accord. And then I got my license, and then I never drove again until now. Actually, until the fresh old age of 35. So, I wish I could really call the 96 Accord like my first car, but actually it's my current car, which is a Passat. So there's that. Late 2000s, same as the early decade, but now with the Nissan Altima, Ford Focus, and Ford F-150. And then Beans' recommendation was the Toyota Camry, which I think is one of these. The only one I can, like, comfortably, like, identify is like, oh, look, it's the stupid looking one. It's the PT Cruiser. I know what that one is. Let's see. So compared to 90s cars, the 2000 cars returned to more angular and less jelly bean like bodies. And apparently the reasoning behind that is for better crash safety. So for example, if you look at here, I think this is the Honda Pilot. If you see like the shell around things like the wheels, they're a little bit more out, and this was more so for like more sturdiness. The frame is also just in general a little bit more thick, especially with your SUVs. Let's see what else. More aggressive grills. So if we compare to the 90s cars, if you look at the grills, they are pretty minimal, especially the later we get into the decade. So look at, like, there's barely even a grill or like an exhaust there. I love the Miata. He's smiling. Also, this Miata, look at these like pop-up, I keep calling them eyes, headlights. The little like pop-up headlights. Keep that in mind because you're never gonna see it again. At least not like contemporarily. So like the grills were very like minimal in the 90s. They would get even bigger again into the 2000s. So here it's pretty minimal. Once we get to the 2000s, they're back in Pog form. So they're back over here in the Subaru. A little less minimal here. Especially here, if we look at this one, which I think is the, what is this, the Ford Explorer? So yeah, they're definitely more like pronounced here. They're starting to get minimal again by the end of the 2000s, but and then they're more likely to be monochromatic with no more unpainted plastic strips on the bumpers and doors. So actually, this is a good idea. This is a good example of that here. 90s cars used to have a little, and 80s cars actually used to have a lot more of these like unpainted black strips, kind of for like accent. You start to lose them later on. So like here it's a little bit more monochromatic. You still have a little smidge of black here. This is a bit more of an exception. This looks more like a panda, you know? But here, like this is overall white. This is overall yellow. A little bit of accent here actually. Overall gray, overall white. There's still this like accent, but it's not black anymore. So yeah, these are a couple of ways to identify some 2000s cars, especially for things like Time Guesser. And then let's move on to fashion. Okay, so yeah, with fashion, I included as many things that I could from like the Wikipedia article. But as we circle up, you'll also see these pictures over here with my face plastered all over. It's because these are from my very own files. These are actual like pictures from like my high school. Just because like I thought that it pretty much did kind of show off like the fashion of the time, in my fair opinion. And I covered everyone's face just so that you wouldn't know which one I was. So the Binka files, yeah, these are straight from the Binka files. But let's talk about it, shall we? Let's talk. Also, do note that all these are from around 2008, 2009. This is like my senior year of high school, essentially. So, for fashion, oh my god, freaking Justin Bieber when he was just a babe. When he was just like a little Justin baby. Tender and mild, that one. If the music inspiration for the 1990s was grunge and rock, a popular inspiration for the 2000s stemmed from hip-hop, and specific pop stars as well. So like J-Lo, Britney, Christina Aguilera, those people. 2000s was also the beginning of kind of like fast fashion as well. So in the early 2000s, you saw a lot of slim, low-rise silhouettes. So what that means is like the upper body is a little bit more like clinging to like either showing more skin or conforms more to like your natural body, while the bottom is kind of what is more likely to like flare out a little bit more, right? I better see some t-shirts over long sleeves. Okay, my thing of the 2000s though is the dresses over the jeans. For me, like that was like, oh yeah, that is so like 2000s. Because I used to do that. I used to do that a lot. The Justin Bieber hate of that era is so insane because bro, that's a child. For real though, like look at him, he's literally like a baby. Like poor kid, you know? Better off this way. Oh, I should have warmed up my voice. What the heck? Okay. Crop tops coupled with low-rise jeans and cargo pants, and Y2K styles use a lot of metallic, shiny textures, buckles, and technology, such as the white iPod earbuds, offset with pastel hues like baby blue and pink. Celebrity and hip-hop culture inspired a lot of styles. Tracksuits, low-rise jeans, big sunglasses, off-the-shoulder top, and cargo pants was a combination. It really proves people were meaner just cause. 100%. Post 9/11, there was a rise in a little bit more conservatism, as well as an uptick in denim. I was definitely hating on Justin too. So, do you guys remember the like "Leave Britney alone" like that? I remember that and like being part of the crowd that was like, oh, but like, you know, Britney deserves it because she's gone insane, you know? And then looking back, it's like, no, why were we so cruel? You know, like she was going through like a mental breakdown and people were making fun of her, you know? Dang. What a time that was. Yeah, the denim. I'm still such a sucker for denim. I'll admit right now, I'm still such a big sucker for denim. I'm the person that wears like the denim like overshirt over my dress. Yeah, the low-rise jeans are coming back. They are. Yeah. Let's see. Early 2000s saw the return of 1980s fashion. So during the 2000s, you see a lot of like 1960s and 1980s fashion coming back. But also, like I said, a lot of influence from like celebrities as well as hip hop. So Skechers, Heelys, Adidas, Reeboks, Nikes, Newsboy caps, and jelly bracelets. And at first I was like, what is a jelly bracelet? And then I was like, oh, these! I had so many of these. I had so many of these. I remember like we would get these like every week from for some reason. It was either this or did your school have that trend where you would get like let's say you get like a bottle of like Coca-Cola and then underneath the cap was like a little plastic thing and you would like cut out the middle and stretch it out and that was a bracelet. Did you guys ever do that? Because I remember I would do that. Low rise on me would just make me look pregnant. That's crazy. I remember in middle school, my mom made me get rid of all my jorts. No, not the jorts. Yeah, the I Heart Boobies, especially for like breast cancer awareness, right? Did you experience silly bands? My silly bands were like the Coca-Cola thingies that I was that I told you guys about. Your like DIY ones, right? Wow, good Charlotte. I haven't heard them in a while. Let's see. Mid 2000s saw the first inklings of fast fashion via it items. So it's one of those like you have to have this specific item in order for your outfit to work. You still have Heelys? That's so sick. That's like plus 10,000 aura, you know? The Leave Britney Alone person got bullied horrendously for having the audacity to ask people to not harass someone while they're going through a mental breakdown. Exactly, exactly. And like I said, I remember I was part of the group that was like, heh heh, heh heh. And I feel like certain, oh, if we're talking about like mean-spirited comedy shows, Tosh.0. Tosh.0 was definitely one of them. Where like, he was kind of part of it as well. He was part of it. The scene fashion flashbacks, oh my gosh. I wanted Heelys so bad, but I was terrified and didn't know how to actually use them. No, me neither, Dove Beetle. 100% like me neither. I feel like I would have crashed. I feel like I would have just been like, hey, Babinkums, check out my new Heelys. Stop this thing. So let's see what else. Oh yeah, so it items, including like, for example, like a Takashi Murakami and Louis Vuitton collab bag, right? Also popular during this time was like hippie and boho clothing. So that included like paisley patterns, like things like this bandana on Aaliyah. Rest in peace. Let's see. I was gonna say rest in pepperoni, but no, I actually do miss Aaliyah. Let's see. Loose fabrics, flowy skirts with earthy tones. Crocs were also a trend for a while, and then they definitely came back with a vengeance, like late 2010s to like now, you know? My mom had a bunch of bootleg Murakami Louis Vuittons. It was like, that actually sounds kind of sick. Skinny jeans and ballet flats. This was my freaking, like, combo. As well as, like, a lot of my classmates in high school as well. This was the combo, the ballet flats and skinny jeans. I saw it a lot from emo fashion, but I feel like it wasn't necessarily an emo thing. And then late 2000s saw the return of other 1980s aspects, such as vivid neon colors, gladiator sandals, longer camisoles, baby doll dresses, and looser fabrics instead of crop tops. And I'm wondering, yeah, you know what? I'll finish this off and then we'll look at some of the pictures as examples. So for men's fashion, a lot of the same. So Y2K fashion during the early 2000s. You had some accessories like aviator sunglasses, trucker hats, flip-flops, baseball bats, and jelly bracelets. Mid 2000s, 1960s mod culture revival. Cargo pants, classic rock tees, army surplus, trilbies, which were not fedoras, but trilbies, Adidas, and Converse shoes. And then lastly, you had a whole bunch of youth subcultures. So hip-hop, McBling, which we're gonna go into, emo scene, preppy, skaters, psychobilly, new metal, ravers, British chav, and cholo styles. Though I do feel like cholo kind of like developed from like earlier subcultures, but I do remember like the cholo style of the time. So let's go ahead and look at some pictures. So yeah, like the silhouette of like kind of like wide bottom compared to like kind of like a skinny top. Denim, definitely, like especially either distressed or decorated denim like this. Destiny's Child, by the way. The newspaper boy hat with your like crop top and your low-rise jeans, the bandana with the big hoop earrings. Once again, another crop top. And like I said, the freaky, is this velvet? Is this dress velvet? What a move. What a move. So yeah, you had your dress over jeans. I remember I used to do this a lot in high school too. It was like your camisole over like jeans and stuff like that. And then you also had your subcultures, your scene kids, your ravers, or is this like raver goth, I want to say? Skaters, the scene, more scene kids, emo kids, right? You had your skinny jeans with your shoes. Oh my god, these specific kinds of shoes especially. Your Converse, stuff like that. Flared out jeans. I think this is Putin, isn't it? But yeah, your flared out jeans were popular more so during like the early 90s, and then they were more so replaced with skinny jeans. Hip hop culture definitely was like blossoming in like fashion during this time. So you have Eminem. This is like the British chav over here. I think I wanted one of like Kevin Federline because I feel like his fashion definitely kind of was very like 2000s. Putin jump scare for real. Jay-Z, this is kind of examples of like your 60s revival fashion. Hairstyle, yes, a lot of people during this time, especially boys, would have this hairstyle. So many of my classmates had this hairstyle. The guy I was dating at the time in high school before I met Beans had this hairstyle. No, this is Kevin Federline and Britney. This is also very like 2000s. And then lastly, Mean Girls, and then pictures from high school. Pictures from high school. So yeah, you had a lot of like look at these like neon colors over here, bright colors. These two were sharing an earbud. Let's see. These skirts, right? These long flowy skirts. The small, I don't even know how to say this. It's like almost like a half like sleeve jacket, or sorry, like a sweater over like a big dress. Your like long sleeves with like the cargo pants. You can't see the cargo pants here, but I kind of remember this person's fashion. Textures, colors, right? The jackets with like the scarves, but also some kind of like graphic tee over here. The jeans with kind of like the big baggy scarves, stuff like that. So yeah, this was the fashion of the time. Man, okay, we've gone through a lot in a little bit of time. What time is it right now? Okay, cool. It's still a big while before our next ad break. So let's see if we could just knock off the last few sections, which is all about art, which is like my favorite because it does, as much as like it's easier to talk about pop culture once we get into like more contemporary decades, it's getting a little harder to talk about art. Specifically like art movements that you would see like in a museum. So I'm actually going to start first with, should I start with this? Or should I start with this? Let's talk about aesthetics. We'll talk about aesthetics and then we'll talk about art movements. And I think that'll be the last thing we go over before we do Time Guesser. So if you grew up during this, you're going to recognize a lot of these, but a lot of really cool aesthetics came about from the 2000s. So top of the list over here is the Y2k futurism. This was a type of retrofuturism. Retrofuturism is basically like what people of the past thought that the future would be like. So for example, like the Jetsons is an example of retrofuturism because it's people from like the 60s and 70s imagining what life would be like in the far off year of 2003, you know? I just think of the Harvey Birdman joke where it's like, we're from the far off year of 2003. And then Harvey Birdman looks at his calendar and it's like 2005. But yeah, so like the Y2K futurism was an example of that, of like they saw the future as being like sleek with lots of metallic textures, light colors, sleek chrome or transparent textures, early CGI, cool and minimal color scheme. So these are some cool examples as well, where it's like mostly white and transparent, but with a little bit of accent with your neon colors. And I also found this really cool Y2K timeline. too, with like some aesthetics. So Y2K beginning era was actually it predates Y2K. So you're from 1995 to 1997, you started to see people looking forward into the future, and you start to see like these like really metallic jackets, textures, lots of like organic shapes. Peak era is right at the cusp of Y2K. So you got your Furbies, who remembers the name of the dog? Who remembers the name of like the little like metallic doggy? Was it like Poochie, or am I thinking of like the Simpsons like character? You have your transparent Mac computers, your Apple computers over here. Coolio with his cool hair. The Matrix. And then the decline started around 2002 to 2004. But you still saw a little bit through like your Jet Set Radio, Code Lyoko. I kind of love Code Lyoko, if I'm being honest. Your flip phones. And then they would overlap with the following styles as well. So Gen X Soft Club is a pretty interesting one. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in any more than this, but you've probably seen Gen X Soft Club. It's very like a lot of blurry textures and a lot of like motion blur and stuff like that, and kind of just like softness all around. And then transition period, you did start to see McBling, which we'll also get into. This is a style that at first I think a lot of people like view as trashy, but it's grown on me. It apparently actually was called Poochie. Oh my gosh, nice. I had forgotten. I had one as a kid, but it was more so for my younger siblings. But I remember it's just like the Furby in that like it would not shut up. Like, there was a way to turn it off, but for the most part, like, if you didn't want to get woken up in the middle of the night by your freaking Furby, you needed to take the batteries out. Because I also remember, like, the Poochie, too. Like, we also had one that was, like, a frog. I remember it would, like, wake me up in the middle of the night. Okay, so Y2K futurism. These are examples of that. Like, the crazy, like, hairstyles. Your chrome, yeah, just stuff like that. Shiny textures, early CGI. Around this time, you also saw Frutiger Arrow. So this is a style that is very much in vogue nowadays. People are very nostalgic for this style to the point where they kind of Flanderize it and they kind of overdo it. But this is another style that kind of developed out of this time period, and it kind of overlaps with Y2K futurism and features a lot of glossy textures, skeuomorphism, which I'll go into, and then earthy and aquatic theming. So, if you don't know what Frutiger Arrow is, it's this. It's this. It's like the Xbox 360 UI. It's like stuff like this where like the buttons look like they are buttons. I'll go over what skeuomorphism is. Stuff like this where you have your like aquatic theming, your earthy theming. This kind of goes into that whole theming of like environmentalism and caring for the earth and stuff like that. And skeuomorphism, for those unfamiliar, is basically the idea of like making something look like what it's meant to be, if that makes sense. So for example, this is an example of what the like voice notes app looked like on the iPhone. Back like in the old days, back when like iPhone was still like starting off, like smartphones were still like a thing, they would show you a picture of an actual microphone just to really nail in the fact that you were using a microphone app. If you were to go to your let me do this right now actually. If I go to my voice notes app, let me do this right now. Voice, oh, I misspelled it and said voice. Voice memos, it just shows me like all the voice memos I have and the record button, right? So like this was kind of hard for me to wrap my head around, because it's like, oh well, yeah, it makes sense to make something look like what it's meant to be, right? Like for example, if you look at this old UI, YouTube isn't the YouTube logo, it's a TV. The calendar actually looks like a calendar. The map shows the map itself. The notes shows you a notepad, and the calculator shows you like buttons on a calculator. If you look at your phone nowadays, especially if you have an iPhone, a lot of these might not match anymore. So I'm actually going to look at my own phone right now. The YouTube app is simply the YouTube logo. The maps, I actually have like a whole widget for maps, so I actually can't see it right now. The Maps app is just the icon of like the little like pin, you know? The Notes app actually still looks the same. Calculator app looks like a simplified calculator, but basically like a good explanation as to why a lot of companies did this, of like, for example, making a button have shading so that it looks like a button that you can actually press, is to kind of prime people excuse me, from going from analog to actual physical switches and buttons to virtual switches and buttons. It was kind of that transition period where it's like, okay, we kind of want it to look like a switch or a button so that people know that you're supposed to push it, that you can like click on it, right? Whereas nowadays, because we have kind of grown up with like technology and like touch screens and stuff like that, that's no longer needed. It's almost like implied of like what you can and can touch as a button, if that makes sense. But back then, because of this like transition from analog to digital, we needed the microphone app to show us a microphone. To show that like, oh, this is the app that I'm going to use to record, you know, like a voice memo, right? And this is a good example too, like the logo of Instagram used to show a camera, just so that you know that like, oh, you take pictures and you share it with your friends. And now it's become this flat design of like a very simplified version of a camera, because now the logo has become so ubiquitous, it's become so like commonplace that you know what this logo stands for. You don't need to translate it into a camera anymore because people just recognize the brand, you know? So I'm also kind of like what Idol said, I miss this aesthetic. I kind of miss it. I'm kind of glad that it's actually coming back. We are starting to see a reaction against flat design and minimal design in favor of more skeuomorphic and like kind of maximal logos and designs and stuff. So yeah. All my homies hate minimalism. Dude, okay. It's interesting because like I value graphic design minimalism for the sake of clarity, but I also went through like a character arc of going from like I love minimalism, I love, just owning less things so I can focus on like what really matters in life, to like, no, actually I like maximalism. I like being able to show off all the cool little knickknacks that I have. But I also feel like that weird change also is because of the change within society of like minimalism is almost like a status thing too, of like, oh, I don't need to own things because I'm so rich that everything is just virtual, or everything is like I don't need to have it like physically, It's just one of those days. Hello, Zako. We're talking about the 2000s. Minimalism keeps stealing the souls of mascot characters. 100%, yeah. The Filipino in you cannot deny the maximalism. Yes. Yeah, like I was really into minimalism too, like both as like an aesthetic and like I said, for minimalism is good in terms of like clarity of design. Like if you're like, part of my job is to design presentations for maximum like clarity, especially accessibility for people with color blindness and dyslexia. So minimalism actually helps in that regard. But if you are really good at graphic design, you can still make a maximalist presentation that is still readable and very clear. But definitely, like, I do see the benefit of both minimalism and maximalism, but I think also minimalism has sucked the soul out of a lot of things, especially because it's become, like, corporatized and everything. So, yeah, that is Fruitiger Arrow. Next, let's go on to McBling, y'all. Like, I kind of low-key, high-key love McBling. Like, and I think part of it is the nostalgia. But if you guys don't know what McBling is, it's extravagant and hip-hop influenced style that utilizes a lot of vibrant colors coupled with sleek textures and popular brand names and logos. So it's kind of like, I could see why a lot of people are like, oh, this is trashy, Because like these are the things that you would see like people who want to seem like they're rich, but they're not actually rich. This is the kind of aesthetic that you would see from that, where it's like, oh, look at my like Dolce & Gabbana like lipstick, look at all these things that I can buy, blah blah blah. But it's just so charming. I don't know, there's something about it, like all of the like bedazzled, like the commitment to the color pink, the bedazzled hat, the flip phone. This one, okay, like not only is it sleek and like metallic texture, it's pink, it's like vibrant pink. I love that. The full denim outfit, come on y'all. This Timberlake and and Britney Spears? Oh my gosh. There's so much charm to this, you guys. There's so much charm to this. It's basically Y2K, but like feminine. And a part of me, like, hot take, I feel like people think that it's like weird and trashy because of that, Okay, let's see. My mom once went to an open house of a newly renovated house and said it was like walking through a graphic novel because there was no color anywhere. For real. And I feel like that's the thing too with minimalism, is that there are ways that it could be done really well. It's just that, like, why do people commit to like the blank white, like, hospital sterile walls? You know, there are ways that you can do minimalism really well, but that's not it. Heroin chic, the juit. Full denim still goes hard if you have skater gear. I agree. The dress. 2000s, did we talk about Homestuck yet? No, I did not include it in this one. But to be fair, it's because we like talked about a lot. Like, unfortunately, like I could not. I gave the spiel earlier, but there's no way I could have fit everything that I wanted to in here. Because we spent like the first hour and a half just talking about pop culture and kind of speed ran through like cars, fashion, and popular aesthetics. So I'm sorry, like there's like you were the latest of the of a long line of people that are like, you didn't include this, you didn't include that, you didn't include this. And you know what? If you guys do a deep dive, you guys are free to include that in your own deep dive. Okay. So lastly, with popular aesthetics, you got your MySpace era emo scene and glitter graphics. I also included, I just tacked on metrosexual here in despite the fact that I couldn't like find a picture of it. But yeah, do you guys remember these? Not only, oh my god, this is before like, you know, like the advent of like a lot of AI art. So like someone either drew or traced or just like, you know, like they just did this. The emo Sasuke kind of goes hard, you know? And if I'm looking at the date properly, this is 05. This is like an actual classic. But yeah, the Invader Zim, like Gur, lol random. This one you saw on everyone's freaking like Tumblr and MySpace and Zanga. You saw, if not this exact comic, this aesthetic. 100%. I made you a cookie, but I eated it. Same with this one. And then your glitter graphics, y'all. We gotta bring it back. We gotta bring back the glitter graphics. I want to make like a Bubinka glitter. Wait, I did though. Wait, oh my gosh. How could I have forgotten? This is one of the first pieces of art that I made for myself. Give me a second. I see what's going down. I have to find it. Where did I put it? I legit do already have like a glitter graphic of myself. And I just remembered. Feel like a man. Push her around. Do you feel better now as she falls to the ground? There we go. Guys. Do you guys like it? Do you guys like it? This is one of the first pieces of art that I ever made for myself. She's sad. So yeah, we gotta bring it back is what I'm saying. Holy ish, that's amazing. Should I like take requests for stuff like this? Where it's like, it looks like you went to like the photo booth and just like, you know, got your pictures. I will take one, heck yeah. I mean, I am still doing illustration requests for people that donated to the subathon. So I think you were one of them, Mega Bronson, so I will contact. And I know you already gave me a request, I just haven't finished it yet. But yeah, so those are a couple of popular aesthetics of the time. I'm missing out on a lot. Once again, I couldn't put everything in here, but these were just some of my favorite picks. So with that, we're gonna end off on two more things. Which we just have one where it's the three of us at a JCPenney photo shoot. I'm kind of down. I could do the one that you still like requested and that one, because that would count as like its own separate illustration. I'd be down for that. But all right, so let's get into art movements, and then we'll take a deep dive into one specific one called lowbrow art and pop surrealism before we do our time guessing. So art movements. You start to see, let's see. What I put here is the continuation of superflat and street art. Street art is forever, in my opinion. Like, where we started to see it like beginning of like 1960s and 70s, we're gonna keep on seeing it. But in terms of like street art of the 2000s, this is where you see a lot of Banksy's satirical and anti-capitalist stencil-based art, and Shepard Fairey, who did steal a lot, by the way. But Shepard Fairey is the guy that is known for the Obama Hope poster. Excuse me. Let me drink some water. Okay. Is this my friends over you? Yeah, I'm listening to a pure pop punk playlist on Spotify. So yes. And these are examples of artwork from Banksy. So a lot of us might know him for his like stencil based artwork on like walls and stuff, but he also did some like lampooning and satire on just like art itself. So this is of course a parody of like why did I want to say Edward Norton? Edward Hopping. This is of course a parody of like Hopping's work, and then this is he painted Jerry from Tom and Jerry over this like kind of like classical painting over here. So kind of like lampooning it in a way. And then Superflat, if you guys need a reminder of that, that is the art style that is mostly associated with Takashi Murakami, as well as a whole bunch of other Japanese artists of the time, such as Yoshitomo Nara, Aya Takano, Yusuke Nakamura, and a couple other offshoots as well. So that would continue on into the 2000s. And then there was also a lot of rejections of conceptual art, which I think a lot of people, you know, it's we kind of understand, right? For those that need a reminder of conceptual art, it goes all the way back to like the 1970s. And this idea of like, rather than the execution or the like end result of a piece of art, it was more so the concept around the art that people wanted to explore, which I still like, once again, conceptually. But it's also fair to see why people would react against that. So a lot of the art of this time, especially with this one genre called Stuckism, focus mostly on figurative painting, as well as like painterly styles and emotional bluntness. So it's very much reminiscent of the neo-expressionism that you saw in the 90s. I'm trying to find it. Oh, of the 80s. It was the 80s. I was like, where is it? So like the neo-expressionism that you saw from Jean-Michel Basquiat, where it's very expressive. Like you can definitely see like the scribbles, the lines, the like brush strokes of it and everything. Very expressive. You could see the hand of the artist with this. So that came back around with the 2000s with Stuckism. It started out in the UK, by the way, but then like kind of like spread all over the world. But we have a couple of examples here, such as Elsa Dax, Eamon Everall. I actually like Eamon Everall's artwork because it's very self-referential to a lot of famous art historical pieces. So this is a reference to Jan van Eyck's, I think, marriage painting. So it's one of those, like, you know, like the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the screen. It's like, oh, if you know the reference, and it's like, oh, I recognize that, you know, very cool. Paul Harvey, Bill Lewis, and more. These are just a couple of their examples of their work, right? So they all have this like quality of like, for one, they definitely want to show off like the human figure and anchor kind of our perception around that. Though their styles did vary. Like this one is very like maximalist. This one's very expressive. This one's almost like cubist in a way, and then this one is very kind of like Art Nouveau. Right, so different executions, but all kind of the same idea of like, we can't just be doing like abstract stuff anymore. Another really cool artist of this time is Kehinde Wiley. So he's well known, especially nowadays, for doing the portrait of Barack Obama after his presidency. But even before that, now if folk was talking about being kind of like hipsterish with Napoleon Dynamite, of like, oh, I like Napoleon Dynamite before everyone else did, I feel like I'm kind of that way with Kehinde Wiley, because like I found out about him like shortly like into like my college career, and like I really liked his artwork because like he basically utilizes Renaissance and like classic artwork, but centers people of color, especially like Black people. So he centers people that are normally marginalized, but they're like centered within these like Renaissance motifs and styles. So I just think that's so cool. Like look at this artwork, like exquisite technique all around, right? But he's kind of like using our association with like Renaissance and like later like Baroque artwork to kind of like center these portraits. So very cool stuff. I didn't know about him like super early, but I just remember like learning about him, and then everyone like popped off on him for or not popped off, but like he kind of popped off after he did the Obama portraits, and I was like, I already knew about him. I liked him before everyone knew about him. So yeah, I do love his stuff though. And then lastly, another big art movement that you would see in like gallery and museum spaces was this idea of relational aesthetics and participatory art. So this kind of goes back to the whole like conceptual art thing. So if some people were reacting against conceptual art, other people were kind of like going along with it or kind of like getting their own stab at it with this idea of participatory art. So this is art that needs a participant. Basically, it's not just like you look at a painting and it's like, wow, I love the color and like composition of this. This is like the art is you participating in it. So here, one example of this is an artist who made a slide inside of a gallery space, inside of a museum space, where part of the art is you sliding down it. And of course, this is going to draw a lot of controversy of like, well, then what's separating like a playground from being an art piece? Where it's like, well, yeah, actually. What you know, what's wrong with seeing a playground as an art piece? I think that's pretty cool. But then another aspect to it was this one. This is a website called Learning to Love You More. And back in the 2000s, this was basically people taking this pair of artists. It was like a couple. They were taking kind of prompts of what to do. And it was like, make a poster of shadows for me, or recreate 3 minutes of a fresh air interview. And they would post every so often with these prompts. Like people would just say like, oh, you know, like draw a portrait using only like colored pencils, and they would do it, you know. So it was this interactive part of it where like the art didn't happen unless there was participants that were giving their feedback. So yeah, let me actually change the music back to All Out 2000s. Ooh, Dirty Little Secret. Hell yeah. So yeah, that is participatory art. And then the last thing that we're gonna go into before we do our guessing, our time guessing, is a very specific art piece that a genre that I wanted to explore a little bit more, because it actually goes through a lot of decades and a lot of different like evolution to get to where it kind of got to. And arguably, it's still developing. But this one is called Lowbrow Art and Pop Surrealism. So if we want, let's just go ahead and like take a look real quick at like what that looks like. So it develops quite a while from the 60s and 70s. This is an interesting one because it develops out of like basically a lot of alt culture in California during the 60s and 70s before it evolves into something completely different. So this is what the early art used to look like. You might have seen like parodies of like, you know, this crazy looking like rat creature. This is by, what's his name? Ed Big Daddy Roth, as well as a couple of other cartoonists like Kenneth Von Dutch Howard, Robert Williams, Brad Parker, Victor Moscoso, and Mark Ryden, and a couple more. But it started off first, actually I can just read off of this. So it's marked by sarcastic and gleeful humor, rejection of conventional art rules, vibrant colors, and the kitsch and exaggerated. So it has its roots in 1950s and 1960s LA alternative and underground art culture. And it's just like this wild combination of like comics, hot rod culture, tiki culture, graffiti, surf culture, punk music. So this is kind of like the roots of it, right? Of like hot rods and stuff, freaky deaky, like kind of like cartoony styles, sexualization, pin-up girls, you know, like once again, like comic style, just this weird mishmash of different like alt culture things. And then eventually it like turns into like tiki culture, like beach culture, surfer culture, right? And it's kind of seen as lowbrow because it's rejecting a lot of the aesthetics that are like kind of like seen as aesthetically pleasing for the time, right? Like it's rejecting that. And then eventually it would get so much attention. Oh, and you also see a little bit of inspiration from like the 70s as well, especially with like psychedelic culture. So it was popularized in the 1990s by a magazine called Juxtapose magazine. And then during the 2000s, a lot of these artists would kind of like mature And that looks like AI art now, I swear. I swear all of this is like legit, right? Yeah, and it's funny because like, yeah, this formed out of like a lot of counterculture, but it was like just like a weird amalgamation of all these things. But during the 2000s, a lot of these artists would develop their style into like very specific things. So a good example is Mark Ryden. Like he would develop into this very like kind of soft but almost like gothic, macabre style that you would see especially during the 2000s. There's a really good video about it as well, but that goes into a couple of other styles as well. Let me see if I can find it actually. So pop surrealism. So it develops into this style called like pop surrealism. It's this video. And the interesting thing about pop surrealism is that it's blending together two things that like ultimately shouldn't be blended together, because surrealism, you know, this, if we go back to like the 1920s, this formed out of like a reaction against like the gruesome warfare of World War I. So it was kind of like a like reaction against that, and they chose like the strangeness of like dreamlike and strange quality of art. And then pop art is meant to kind of like anchor people with the recognizable. So they use kind of like macabre and like surreal imagery almost as a way to also like commentate on like pop culture. So if we look at examples of this, I mostly just chose from Mark Ryden, but then you have people like, unfortunately I didn't get a lot of their names, but you have art that like uses pop culture and like recognizable figures to kind of like commentate on like consumerism, for example. To see LA, really want to. Stuff like this, right? So I can see the comparison to like AI art, because definitely I feel like a lot of AI art or a lot of pop surrealism was probably fed into like AI art. Was it LLCs or whatever? Or LLMs? So yeah, but it is a very distinctly 2000s style. So yeah, if you guys want to check out this video, I definitely recommend it. There's a lot of really cool art in there, and I'm actually going to include it in this as well. Let me just ungroup. There we go. Let me fix that. And I think that's it actually. Wait, let me group all of this back together. Yeah, there we go. Group it. But yeah, so that is the 2000s in a nutshell. we got it done within 3 hours. Isn't that crazy? So the 2000s, once again, we have a lot of like post 9/11 stuff, y2k fashion, y2k sensibilities, different types of music, different types of games, different types like cars becoming a little bit more angular, lots of subcultures that we might or might not be familiar with, and art, beautiful art. You can probably tell that I'm starting to get a little tired, so let's go ahead and get into some time guessing, and then I think we're gonna call it from there. So let me go ahead and just make sure that we don't get any incoming raids, and let's guess the time. I'm gonna guess that it's 9:24. So let's do it. Okay, this is probably not the 90s. Let's take a look. I see a sheep. The hair? Interesting. So there's a lot of people wearing hats, but I'm also seeing longer hair that you would associate with like maybe the 60s. Cradle Albion. Purity feeds for all stocks. This feels very like English. This feels very like UK. Especially Albion. Albion is kind of like an old-fashioned name for like ancient name for what's it called? The UK. Evans Yandre. Ooh, the double L makes me think this is Welsh actually. Maybe this is Wales? Really want to come kick it with you. IRA? They're looking at sheep. Like I said, a couple of these people have longer hair that you would associate with like the 50s or 60s. And it's mostly younger folk that I'm seeing. So maybe let's say it's the 50s? Or like late 50s? And like I said, there's one name with a double L, which makes me want to say that it's Wales. So let's say Cardiff and hope for the best. 959 Cardiff. Ooh, it was Wales, but it was a little bit north. So an auction underway during celebrations for the 50th anniversary of the Welsh Mountain Sheep Society in Aberystwyth, Wales. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but close enough. We were not close enough time-wise, but eh. We didn't know that it was Wales, though. Okie dokie. Where is this? Hey, Mike, we've ordered tons of this stuff. You might want to put a fresh coat on before you move in. Interesting. Mike. On to the other Washington. Mike Dukakis. He sounds familiar. He sounds familiar, right? Peace plan, yes. Contras, no. Vote Mike twice. Pike Place. Something grill. Oh, you know what? I didn't look into hairstyles of the 2000s. I feel like I should probably go back and do that. Maybe sometime tomorrow or something. But hairstyles probably would be really helpful for this. So this looks American, right? Oh, and then 88 is probably like a giveaway for the year. So 88. The question is, where is this? This feels America. And Mike Dukakis sounds very familiar. But it also says onto the other Washington. So maybe this is in Washington State and they're talking about electing this guy to Washington, D.C. Right? Do we want to say, let's say Seattle. Right? Washington State. 1988. Take a guess. Nice! We got it. Democratic presidential candidate Michael Dukakis speaking to a crowd during an afternoon campaign rally at Seattle's Pike Place Market. Republican Vice President George H.W. Bush ultimately won the election with 53.4% of the votes. Ah, okay. It's nice. We got pretty good on that one. Nice catch on the whales on the previous one. I didn't catch that. It was mostly the double L because I feel like if you're seeing double L, my mind would go to like Central or South America. But because it was English too, it's like, oh, maybe this is Welsh. But I wasn't 100% sure. So, okay. So this looks much older. This looks like a country in the, Turkey, I want to say. Like maybe West Asia, Turkey, something like that. Maybe Constantinople. Not Istanbul, but Constantinople. I'm not sure time period wise though. This could be like maybe like 1910s, 19 something. Photo quality looks a little bit too good, so let's say 1910s. Let's say 1915, Constantinople. Istanbul, not Constantinople, but Istanbul, not Constantinople. No, we were totally wrong. Muslims gathered at the Dome of the Rock grounds in British Mandate, Jerusalem during the funeral of an Indian Muslim leader, Maulana Muhammad Ali, a pivotal figure in the Indian independence movement, pictured 17 years before the establishment of the State of Israel. Interesting. I like that they added that part over here, 17 years before. A panda! Oh my gosh, it's a panda! Okay, let's take a closer look. Alright, so we're seeing a mix of... Oh my gosh, it's fireflies. You would not believe your eyes. Like 10,000 fireflies. So if it's a panda, a part of me is like, oh, maybe it's like a zoo in China, but it could also be bear spotted. It's true. I don't know, we're seeing like a mix of different ethnicities here. So it could be like a place that had like lent their pandas. Maybe like the New York Zoo or something like that. Let's try the New York Zoo. I know there's one in Central Park because me and Beans went out there one time. Oh, ad break. Now let's snooze our ad breaks. I think we'll finish before the next one. Where's the zoo? Wait, I thought there is a zoo in Central Park, right? I feel like me and Beans went there. Oh, here. Maybe Central Park Zoo? This does look like, I don't know, I want to say like, this hairstyle specifically looks like 70s, but let's say 80s. Early 80s. No! Dang it! We were way off. Dang. First Lady Pat Nixon passing a panda eating bamboo at the Beijing Zoo on a 7-day diplomatic tour of China. I see. No! Dang. It's okay. It's okay. Our one L. Is that Putin? There's no way, right? That's like Germanic. Oh, that's Hitler. That's straight up Hitler. Okay. Who are the other people here? The painting in the back? Should we just say like Berlin 1940 something? Yeah, no, for real, Peck School. 100%. That was kind of, especially when I was like, oh, this kind of looks like Putin, and then just not noticing the huge Nazi symbol and like Hitler over here. Just being like, oh, is that Putin? No, wait, that's German Hitler. That's definitely a Germanic uniform, but we don't even need that detail because there's that. Let's say 1942? Should we say Berlin? Make a guess? 3 years off, it was 39. Hitler and Mussolini signing the Pact of Steel in the new Reich Chancellery during building in Berlin, formalizing the 1936 alliance known as the Rome-Berlin Axis. Ah, so before Japan got in the mix, I'm seeing. But alright, we did it. We did it, you guys. I don't think we got anything from the 90s, did we? But it's okay. I feel like that's usually how it goes with our like decade studies. We don't usually get something that is from the decade that we studied. But that's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So let's go ahead and copy this. Post it in the Discord. Let me open up Discord. Oh, I didn't see that. I got a DM. I will respond to that post haste. But alright, we did it, everybody. We did our decade study. We played Time Guesser. We talked a lot about Y2K and all the things that we remember from the 2000s. Gotta love it. So with that, let's go ahead and mosh, shall we? Well, what are we moshing to? Oh! You guys want to mosh to TAT all the things she said? And the 80s picture had the year right there. Exactly! We couldn't even flex. We couldn't even flex, you guys. Alright, since it started playing, I think, and because I'm pretty tired and I wanna get the heck out of here, let's go ahead and mosh. For those new students that are here, this is our end of stream tradition where I play some music, and once you hear the music, go ahead and start spamming your favorite emotes in the chat. And I'm going to make your little stream avatars fight each other. There's no correlation between how many emotes you spam and who wins the mosh pit. It's RNG, and it's not rigged. Don't, how dare you? Oh, my emote didn't even go off. How dare you? How dare you? That's all I ask. How dare you? Open up the pit. Alright, once you hear the music, get to moshing. Get ready for lesbians. Mosh pit. Hello, YouTube? Hello? YouTube? Hello? There we go. I'll press the mosh pit button once it kicks in. All the things she said running through my head, running through my head, running through my head. All the things she said running through my head, running through my head, running through my head. All the things she said. Ooh, Big Ham's doing a... I think, oh, wait, snooze the ad. Big Ham's doing a charity event, so I think that's gonna be our go-to for a raid. All the things she said, all the things she said, running through my head, running through my head, running through my head. Things she said, all the things she said, running through my head, running through my head. It's not rigged! I'm telling you, it's not rigged. That was just an accident. It's because of all the things that I said. This is not enough. You know what? I'm gonna prove it. Din, 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 din. Run it again. All the moss she rigged. No! It's not. It's not. All the moss she rigged is so funny, actually. What she's feeling for me. If pretend I could try to forget. Driving me mad, going out of my head. All the things she said, running through my head, running through my head. What the heck? What the heck? Why do I keep winning? How much time do we have? We have enough time for another. I'm telling you it's not rigged. This is all enough. No, it's not all the moss she rigged. It's not. All the things she said, all the things she said. This is not enough. Looking at me, tell me, what do you see? I'm lost in my mind. Deep looking at me, till I ever be free. Cross the line. All the things she said, all the things. You guys are ganging up on me now. What the heck? Running through my head, running through my head. All the things she said, all the things she said. Wow. What a touching story about a young gay couple. I sure hope that this was all legit and that it wasn't just to make more money or anything like that. And that they were just faking it. No! Sometimes. Wait, no, I don't know what he's talking about. Also, how come his mouth wasn't moving when he said that? Is he psychic? Oh dear. Oh dear, we gotta get out before we find out. We gotta get out. Alright, I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow. We're gonna play a 2000s game, one of my favorites. We're gonna play Black and White. If you guys want to see what it's like when I'm given too much power, you will see it. You will see it. She rigged Mr. Pancakes? No! Well, okay. If we're talking about the definition of rigging. Anyway, we're gonna go ahead and raid into Big Ham. She's doing a charity stream right now. Awesome possum. I mean, awesome ham. Thanks for the stream. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys so much. This is always a lot of fun to do. So I'm glad that you guys are interested. And next time we'll talk about the 2010s. Crazy business. Alright, thanks guys. I hope you guys have a good morning, afternoon, and evening. And as always, I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Bye-bye. We raid.